Oh, ba 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 bum 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 boom 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 rum tong tong tong. Hello and welcome to the streaming Evilive show 2-year anniversary spectacular. Ha cha 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 cha. Wait. This is how far we've come. Yeah. Now here comes the embarrassing part. Ready? This is sort of embarrassing. So I was trying to find the video. I thought it would be really kind of nostalgic and cool if we watched a piece of the first video, and I was having some trouble finding it. And that's when I noticed something really, really embarrassing. Today is not 2 years. It's not 2 years. It's 2 years in 2 days. The first show was on the 22nd. Why does any of this matter? None of it matters. I don't know. It's just, it doesn't matter. It's still the 2-year show. I said it was going to be the 2-year show, so it's the 2-year show. It's just funny how I was like trying to find the thing because I thought, oh, let's look at the first show, and so stupid. It's in 2 days, you guys. It's in 2 days. That was so dumb. Oh man, they're just so on brand, right? Just typical Frumess fuck up. What can I say? Hey, let's see if we could find it though. I know it's somewhere here. We got a big show for you guys tonight. A big show. I hope you're ready for a fun-packed evening. We're going to be talking Misfits. When was the last time we talked Misfits on this channel? It was a while. We do have more coming up. We have that Tank episode coming up. Tank Part 2. It's going to rule. Tank Part 2. I can't wait. I know Tank is chomping at the bit. I'm chomping at the bit. We're all chomping at the bit for Tank Part 2. We have to line everything up. It's tough. Babies, kids, so many things come into play when trying to schedule. Also, I've been talking about this probably more than I should be, far too much. I hate the hair, that all these renegade hairs that come off the side of my head. This is an awkward time for my hair. I'm growing my hair out probably for the last time. What are you trying to say? You're not starting the show off in a good way. You sound really stupid. Maybe you should stop. What's up? Samhain Goth is here. Michelle says, glad you're here. I'm glad you're here, Michelle. Dudley is here. I'm trying. Angus is here. It's a good excuse to celebrate all. Yeah, why not? We got Rue Morgue. Rue Morgue was there at the beginning. Rue Morgue is an OG. That dude was there. He's been here with me through this journey for 2 years, man. So this is as much his celebration as it is. I mean, this isn't a celebration. This isn't really. I feel stupid even saying that. Felipe's in the house. Adam, what's up, Adam? How you doing? Wes is here. Hi, Wes. Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm glad you like the channel. Wednesday says it's rad idea, great content. Thank you. It's just talking on the internet. But what I wanted to do, perhaps just for a few moments, let's wax poetically at the I like saying wax poetically. I think it's a really poetic thing to say. Let's take a look at the very first episode. It's been over a year since I've looked at it. I think maybe I looked at it about a year ago. Let's see. And that, I'll got to tell you, I was very nervous that day because I had no plan. I didn't know what I was. Oh, that's not true. I did have a plan. I did, because I had the notes. That's not true. That's a lie. Caught myself in a lie. I did have a plan, but I just sort of I spoke very off the cuff. Nothing. It's not like I had, any like planned itinerary. I knew I was going to speak on the notes. That was about it. What's up, JD? JD is in the house. Rick S is here. Nice to see you, Rick S. Thank you, Sam Haingoth. Appreciate that. Appreciate it. Let's find it right now. Oh, it's showing me what's on the home channel. Where's the well, now the one time I need to find it, and I can't friggin' find it. Maybe it's here. What is it called? The Misfits History Chronicles? What is it? Chronicle, right? Something like that. First show. I'm searching for it right now. I promise we're going to get into the we'll get into the nitty-gritty of the Teenagers from Mars in just a few seconds. Let's give us a second. Oh, come on. Here we go. Here it is. Here it is. It's called The Misfits History, Facebook Evilive, because this show started on Facebook. I forgot that already. It wasn't always about the YouTube channel. It started on Facebook. We migrated over to YouTube at some point. It was, I wanted to sort of, because I was uploading the shows to YouTube anyway, and I figured, why not consolidate? And that's when we started doing StreamYard and whatnot. Here, let's take a look. Let's take a look, shall we? Hopefully you'll be able to hear this. Let me get this going on. Chris Morant's in the house. Chris, how are you? They call him the headhunter for a reason. The headhunter of morning noise. Morning noise. Hold on one second. Here we go. Here we go. It's coming. Got to make sure this ad doesn't hit. Ooh. Yeah, right. Rue. I forgot about it too. The Facebook, it really was. It was the Facebook streaming days. And the show was originally called Facebook Evilive, and then we changed it to the Streaming Evilive show. As they say in Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome, gotta have everything marked, everything membered, right? Hold on one second. Let's see if this will pull up. If you hear screaming children, my wife is bathing and putting the kids to sleep right now. We take turns, and the children can be petulant at this hour of day. So I apologize for any shrieking. I can hear the shrieking. I don't know if you guys can. I've stopped caring, to be honest. Yes, Daniel. Daniel says, you think we've been slack. That's Slade is his name, right? Yeah, right? Rue, totally forgot about that. All right, here it is. Hopefully it will load and not be stupid. Come on. Come on. We want to play this. Don't be dumb. Please. Slake was his name. That's right. How's everybody's Sunday going? Boy, I mean, it really would not be a show if there wasn't some sort of technical difficulty. Am I right? Am I right? Am I right? Not a great way to start off a show. Stupid thing is not loading. I hate that. I hate that. I hate computers. I hate technology. You know, Iggy Pop, he was like, look out, honey, I'm using technology. Because he was the world's forgotten boy. Come on. Come on. You know what? Let's sing the theme song while we wait. Jeff is going to talk about the Misfits right now. He's a nerd about this stuff. Obsessed anyhow. Jeff never shuts his face. Always needs to talk. He might lose some weight if he went out for a walk. Do you think that Danzig cares? Danzig doesn't care. He's not into ranch backstage. That's the whole song. That's the lyrics. Those are the lyrics. Okay, here we go. I got this working. So here it is. This is the very beginnings of this. Whatever this is, whatever this talking on the internet ad nauseum, it began with this clip. And that's why I just want to say, here's what I really wanted to say. This is why I was getting all, sentimental and cheesy about this. This is what I want to say. I never intended to do this like as a thing. It was just a lark. I saw other people going live on Facebook or whatever, and I had been dabbling in it at the beginning of the pandemic. I, was as we talked about yesterday. If you watch Night of the Frumess, I was watching these crazy, weird double features of like Mrs. Doubtfire and From Dusk Till Dawn, or Grease 2 and The Greasy Strangler. And the whole point of watching those double features was just like, I think I'm the only person in the world who's ever watched these two movies at the exact same time. No one has ever watched Grease 2 and The Greasy Strangler at the same time. No one's ever watched Mrs. Doubtfire and whatchamacallit. And I also did Reanimator because Stuart Gordon passed away. I did Reanimator and I did one other movie. And then for whatever reason, I was like, you know what? I'm going to talk about the Misfits, and I'm going to take out my notes that I had taken back in 2017 when I listened to Manny's tape, because I thought that's something that that people would appreciate. And this was I'll just play the very beginning part for those of you who may or may not have seen this. Go check out the full video.
I am nobody. I'm just a guy who is a big fan of the Misfits.
Oh, come on.
And I also am a filmmaker. And I guess I'll start at the beginning. So about 10 years ago,
just talking from the gut, talking from the heart.
I was working on a documentary for a friend in Chicago about,
and that's the beginning of the project.
And you've never seen.
I was sitting in that corner over there.
The Life and Times of George Romero is a fantastic documentary. I hope that sees the light of day someday. I'm telling you, with all these documentary projects, it just does not come out. You'd be surprised.
You have no idea.
That were attempted about the Misfits, separate from what I'm doing here now, or what I've been trying to do.
All right, that's it. I just wanted to look at that very briefly. Like I said, it's just interesting. It's just amazing. Do something that you love to do in life, and don't worry about results. Don't worry about the outcome. Don't worry about what your intention is. Just go out and do something that you enjoy. And you know what? I found out very quickly that people will respond to you if you speak out to them. So people like Rue Mork, people started to talk back at me, and we started to have these conversations, and it just, evolved into whatever it is at today. Nothing huge. We are very close to 4,000 subscribers on YouTube, which is great. My big long-term goal at the moment is to get to 10,000 subscribers. So we're almost 40% of the way there. If you are not subscribed to the YouTube channel, or if you're watching this on Facebook, please take a moment and watch on YouTube, because that really helps, and subscribing really helps and whatnot. And yeah, dude, it's true. It's so true, man. Rue, you're right. Much has changed in the past 2 years. Mics, lights, all sorts of stuff. I started using software. I started making enough money doing this that I actually started to invest in software to do it. I pay a subscription for everything that you see on this screen. I started to, now we have this banner. I mean, thanks to Riot stickers and Sharpie Riot. I mean, all this stuff is just a manifestation of just doing something that I love to do. I'm not saying that I have it's not like saying like there's like a ton of stuff or anything like, whoa, it's really crazy. But I'm just saying like the amount of content, just all the stuff that's come from this, manifested itself. It just happened because I discovered that I like talking and podcasting. And just my point with all this is, do what you love, whether it's making you money or not. Do something that you love if it makes you happy, if you like who you are when you're doing it, as long as you're not hurting anybody else. And it doesn't matter. And most importantly, do not attach yourself to outcomes, because if you attach yourself to outcomes, you are setting yourself up for a big fall if you fall short. I fall short all the time. All the friggin' time. I thought I'd have more subscribers. I thought I would, my channel would be bigger. I thought I'd be making even more money than I am right now. But I still show up. I don't give up. I still show up. I still do it. I do it because I love it. And that's just the primary thing to remember. I think I'm getting a little redundant here, so I'm just going to shut up about all this stuff. Let's launch into the show and get to business as usual. You notice we've had a bit of a lag on the Misfit stuff. It's because I'm being more selective now. We've been doing this for 2 years, 95 shows. We're approaching 100 shows. And I feel that it's time to be selective and do shows that really count instead of just trying to come up with any sort of filler nonsense. Just do strong stuff. Don't save all the weak stuff for like BS stuff, like Night of the Frumess or whatever, that sort of thing. Let's do let's start off with the actual whatchamacallit. Ready? We're gonna go into it with the original. The original. Ready?
Jeff is gonna talk about the Misfits right now. He's a nerd about this stuff, obsessed anyhow. Jeff never shuts his face, always needs to talk. Might miss him somewhere if he went out for a walk. Do you think Danzig cares? He doesn't care. He's out into ranch backstage.
There we go. And you know what? Even though that one guy will probably get really mad at me for doing this, this is a big salute to all the Patreons, all the YouTube members, all of the subscribers, all of you guys that support this channel with your viewership and whatnot. Let's go for an extreme Danzig close-up. This is about to get really loud. I'm warning you, this is going to be loud. Be careful. This one dude was like, if you keep doing that, I'm going to stop watching your show. And I was like, wow, maybe people don't like this. I'm going to stop doing it. But I really like that extreme Danzig purr. It's a lot of fun. Okay, so where did we last leave off? Trying to remember some. Where did we last leave off? Welcome, Matt. Max is here, not was here. He is here. Chutzpah, yes. Orbe chutzpah. You know what that means? It means a lot of, God, what is the proper word for, what is the English translation of chutzpah? Like, nerve. You got a lot of nerve. Ata orbe chutzpah. That was a terrible Israeli accent. My wife would be upset. Okay, so this is part 2 of Teenagers from Mars. We did part 1 already. What is Teenagers from Mars? Teenagers from Mars, for those of you who are joining us for the first time, is a book that was put out by Bazillion Press. It was done by Frank White and Ken Caiafa. Caiafa is the third, well, he's the middle Caiafa brother. You have Jerry Caiafa. He's Jerry Only. You have Rocky, a.k.a. Schlock, a.k.a. Kenny. He's the middle brother. And then you have Doyle, cousin Doyle, a.k.a. Paul Caiafa, Paul P.C. Doyle, as he was called at the very beginnings of everything. He's the younger brother. And the younger brother and the oldest brother, they are the guitar and bass of what you would call the classic lineup of the Misfits. Right. I knew you were just, you meant it as a compliment. I totally picked that up. I did. So what happened was, and then who's Frank White? He is a dude. He's a photographer he was like the official band photographer, at least one of them, in the 90s period. We talk about the 90s from time to time, but we have not dived into the 90s as deeply as we have dived into the original period of 1977 to 1983, where we painstakingly pour over minutia, all sorts of minutia. That's part of the reason why I wanted to have Tank on the show, because Tank was there for the entire period and can give us an accurate oral history of that time from his perspective. And this is a great sort of appetizer for part 2, because we're going to be talking about those years in that next episode. So we decided to split up the book into 2 parts. Obviously, we're going to do 77 to 83, which I thought could actually be split up into 2 parts in and of itself. And I found that I think we were having so much fun that I decided to just do it. We just went through the whole thing, right? And then I figured we keep the back end for now. And hopefully it won't take so long to load things up because I have a different sort of way of doing this now. I have all the stuff right here. Let's blow this up even bigger so we can really see everything. And we're going to start now. So now the year. So what has happened in the interim? The Misfits break up in 1983. Glenn Danzig starts Samhain, yada yada yada. He does his Samhain thing that evolves into Danzig. Jerry and Doyle, they start Christ the Conqueror after a couple of years of just sort of working in the shop and raising families and whatnot. Christ the Conqueror, they some things happen over merch, old merch, skateboard decks, t-shirts, whatnot. Jerry and Doyle decide to form a class action lawsuit and sue Glenn Danzig. And initially they're just suing for money. And then eventually for royalties that they are owed. They've never been paid any royalties. And eventually, I think that shifted, could be wrong. Maybe they were always fighting for the name. I believe it shifted, though. And eventually it became about getting the name back and the right to record. What it started off was a piece of the publishing. Or it started off as that they wanted a percentage of maybe the songwriting. They wanted to claim that they had written a percentage of the songs, down to Jerry being like, it was my idea to do whoa, whoa, whoa right here or right there, that sort of thing, which we learned from when Mike Hideous was on the show. If you've not seen the Mike Hideous show, it's a 3-hour show. It's on this channel. And he talks about videotaping Jerry while he's like cataloging bootlegs and writing things down and saying, I wrote whoa, 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 whoa right here. So that should count as songwriting, that sort of thing. So that's what Jerry was. And then, there's the whole argument. We can go on and on and on about like what qualifies as songwriting. If you write even just a verse, does that count? What is the identity of a song? Is it riffs or is it melody and lyrics? And in a court of law, it's melody and lyrics. So the person who's singing the song comes up with the melody and the lyrics, technically, and if they filed for the publishing, they would be the songwriting owner, even if they didn't write anything on a guitar or a bass or a drummer or a piano or whatnot, that sort of thing. That's where you derive a song's identity. To loop that back around, eventually, Jerry and Doyle, they decided that they just wanted to be the Misfits again. And they reached a compromise with Uncle Glenn, Uncle Jerry and Uncle Glenn and Cousin Doyle. They all reached a bargain. And Uncle Jerry and Uncle Doyle and Cousin Doyle, they came back as the Misfits officially. Christ the Conqueror turned into the Misfits, right? And Glenn was doing his Danzig thing. And it's funny, all throughout this time, the only person who's covering Misfit songs and like kind of keeping the mark alive, and he would use it as a basis for his own lawsuits, but we're not going to get into any of that, is Bobby Steele. Bobby Steele, in whatever those 11, 12 years, he was the only one who was playing Misfit songs, right? But Glenn was too. Glenn was doing, Die Die My Darling and Death Comes Ripping and, anything that was a Samhain song and then became a Danzig song to like fill out the set list. So Glenn was performing a couple of songs too. It's not just Bobby. So there's that. Okay, let's share our screen right now. Why is my nose is just bothering me? A little itchy. Must be all the cocaine. That's what, every time I scratch my nose, some guy in the comments is like, hey Jeff, he must do a lot of cocaine. So funny. All right, here we go. I Turned Into the Crimson Ghost by Ken Caiafa. So this is where part 2 picks up. And this is Ken would dress up as, well, he'll let him explain. Why do I have to explain it? He's written the whole thing. Let's give him the respect of saying it himself. Ready? Bear with me. The text is small, and I'm going to try my best here. I'll zoom. Let me see if I can zoom in on this for myself. Yeah. Okay. There we go. Okay. After the first period of the Misfits ended in 1983, The band's notoriety only seemed to grow. In the mid 90s, my brothers reached an agreement with Glenn Danzig so that they could record and perform again as the Misfits. It's amazing how in that opening sentence, it's a long sentence. That opening sentence encompasses essentially 11 years of history. And, I totally understand. I don't think that Ken wants to talk about lawsuits in his book. I get it. Naturally, they asked me to help with the resurrection. Right away, we asked Dr. Chud to play drums. We had been friends with him since childhood, so that part was easy. I feel like it's a little bit more complicated than that, but maybe I'm wrong. Let's ask Tank. I think we started to in the last episode. I think it was a little, Dr. Chud's dad used to play baseball with Jerry and Doyle's dad, and Chud was in the same grade as Doyle and Steve Zing and Yuri Vaughn. He was class of 82. However, Chud was not into punk rock. Chud wasn't into punk rock, and he wasn't into the Misfits or anything. He was like a new wave guy and like a jock, and like would actually make fun of like punk rock people. So, he sort of fell into this in the same way that maybe Graves did a little bit. And that he was kind of like he was just like a new wave guy. He played in a band called Dan Kidney and the Pulsations because he was just totally into new wave. What's up, Steve? Welcome to the show. All right, moving on. We asked Glenn if he was interested in rejoining, but he was too involved in his many other projects. That is mind you, Ken is writing this. The Misfits have reunited, right? They reunited in 2016. So it's, you have to realize that he's writing this 2 years after Glenn and Jerry are performing on the stage again. And I'm sure that I don't know. I feel like he's got to walk on eggshells and to some extent, especially because one thing we didn't mention, let's mention it right now. The reason why we're doing this, because honestly, I would just tell you all to just go buy the book. You can't get this book anymore. It is out of print. It was pulled from publishing. You cannot get this book. And so I think that it's okay to look through the whole book and sort of like, just cherish it and talk about it and that sort of thing, because you can't legally buy it. If you could legally buy it, I would say buy the book. Just buy the book and read it yourselves. So that's why we're here. But it's just interesting. The words are being I feel like the words are chosen a certain way. And that's not what happened. That is what happened. It's just very interesting how condensed and brief, because there's like stories behind some of the stuff. Like we asked Glenn if he was interested in rejoining. That's a whole story. And we're going to hear from a guy who was there the next time. Like I said, going back to the Grimm Tales, Tank, he was there when that went down. And he told, and if you watched on Patreon, the Sal B, in that Sal B clip, I put a little bonus thing at the end where Sal B is talking about that time at the hotel and what had happened as well. So if you're not a Patreon and you sign up for the Patreon, you will be able to see that. So Glenn was too involved, and I don't think Glenn ever would have done that. Jerry and Doyle have always said that they did that as Jerry has said in interviews. Oh, I did that for the fans. I did that. We didn't really want to do that, but we did that because we wanted to. Where did I go? Oh, there I am. We didn't want to. We wanted to do right by what our fans, by what our fans wanted. That sort of thing. Which is, makes sense. In any case, auditions for a singer began. This process took many months, as I recall. The guys were very discriminating. This person had very big shoes to fill. And, it's true. And we've heard from three people who have done that audition process. Once again, Jonathan Grimm, he auditioned. We also heard from friend of the show, John of Doom and John of Steel from the band Voice of Doom. By the way, Voice of Doom has a brand new CD single. Go check it out on their Bandcamp. along with all their other stuff. Go check them out. They both auditioned. They've talked about it on this show as well, about what it was like to audition. They've mentioned that, here was the thing, at least from what I've heard and what I've, been told, is that, they had Graves was always sort of the second banana during this audition process. He was there. He would sit in or whatever. He would sing with them, or he was always just kind of hanging around ever since they first met him. But they were always looking for somebody better. And originally they wanted Dave Vanian. And it's interesting that Kenny doesn't even mention Dave Vanian here. I would love to hear Dave Vanian's thoughts on all this, by the way. But ultimately, they had this guy, Michael Emanuel, waiting in the wings. It's actually Tank is the one who coined the name Michael Graves. Jerry wanted to call him Microphone, supposedly, allegedly. In any case, the guys were very discriminating. This person had very big shoes to fill. After much deliberating and discussion, we all agreed on Michael Graves. So when he says after much deliberating and discussion, and that they agreed on Michael Graves, what really happened was they wanted Peter Steele to do it. And they actually had, just to add insult to injury, they had Michael Graves teaching Peter Steele the songs. And Peter Steele was the guy who was like, why am I learning these songs? This guy sings them well and he's young and whatnot. This is your singer. And so Jerry and Doyle begrudgingly, I guess they were like, all right, that sort of thing. And that's how Mike got the slot. And, we do a lot of Michael Graves bashing on this channel, but I do want to say about Michael Graves, I do want to say this. For that band that also calls themselves the Misfits, I wish they didn't call themselves the Misfits, but they did. For that band and the material that they wrote and recorded, American Psycho and Famous Monsters, Michael Graves does a great job singing those songs. They're his songs. He wrote those songs. He's fine. He's good. You got to call a spade a spade. It's not a super big fan of his voice per se, but I love American Psycho and Famous Monsters in its own right, in its own way, not as Misfits material, but as whatever that you would the Resurrection band, I don't know. Point is that he was good. He was good for what they wanted. They wanted someone young. They wanted someone to mold. The Misfits have always been a band, even going back to the Danzig years. They've always been a band of, creating, molding impressionable youth. They did it with Doyle. Glenn did it with Jerry. They did it with Franche Como. That's their MO. So it makes perfect sense that Jerry would want to do that with Michael Graves. And that's what they did instead of having an established guy like Peter Steele. Where would the band have gone if they had gotten Peter Steele? Where would the band have gone if they had gone with Mike Hideous, who I believe also tried out and they passed on him? It would have been a different band. It would have been a different sound. It would have been an interesting sound. I would have loved to have heard I've said this before on the channel. I would have loved to have heard a Mike Hideous record. That would have been fascinating. Let's go to the comments super quick, guys. I'm going to be mostly not ignoring comments, but like we have a lot to do tonight. So we gotta make sure we stay on schedule. Microphone, I'm glad that never happened, says Ravner. Dagger Love says, I called up Jerry back then and his wife answered and they put Jerry on. I asked if they're looking for a Glenn clone and he said no and to send a tape in. Dudley says, I see. I didn't know you started on Facebook. Yes. This all started on Facebook. We can say what we want now, but MG was the best thing for the band at the time. Yeah, you really cannot. You can't take away from that. We slag on him a lot, but like, it's true. Like he was very, like, you can't take that away from Michael Graves. He was perfect for that version of that band doing those songs that he wrote a lot of. When you look at who are the most prolific songwriters in the Misfits, Michael Graves is at the top. Can't be argued with. Ravner says, I saw the Resurrection Show, Baltimore, October 30th, 1996. They played the hits and signed everything for the fans. Had Say What You Want, but as a live act, they delivered the goods. Yeah, no argument there. No argument there. As always, as we always say, forevermore, it's just using the name that belonged to a different band with a different leader and a different sound and a different tone. And that was not right. But the band, as a band, if you want to call them them or Dead Kings Rise or whatever, Christ the Conqueror, Mach 2, phenomenal band, tight band, lots of chemistry, great songwriting prowess together. More metal than, say, punk. Quite a fusion of punk and metal, I guess. Whatever. But that's not what we're here to talk about. Let's keep going. But that's what they would do. They would rehearse guys, and you could bring your tape. You could bring it, or no, they would pop in a tape. They would record your rehearsal. It was Dr. Chud was recording everything, I think. And then you would get a copy of your tape as a souvenir. So even if you didn't get to be in the band or get the gig, you still got a copy of the rehearsal, the audition. I mean, what a keepsake. What other band? And, again, it's not like they're paying for people's gas to come up there and audition. It's a good trade-off. It's like, hey, a couple tanks of gas and some gas station food, lunch, whatever, incidentals, tolls to come up to the place, meet the guys in the band and rehearse and get a recording of that forever, no matter what. That is a really cool story. And we've spoken to many people who have that really cool story as a result. So, that's really what there is to say in that regard. Rehearsals began first with the classic Misfit songs and other songs my brothers had written in a prior project. Notice how he does not say Christ the Conqueror, probably because Jerry doesn't want that mentioned, I would imagine. Or he's anticipating that Jerry might not want that mentioned. I don't know. I can't speak for Ken. I haven't spoken to Ken in many years, and I think he's a wonderful, wonderful guy who's been super wonderful to me. I have nothing but nice, positive things to say about Ken. Just want to put that out there as well. During this gestation, I'm just saying that this feels political. There's a political bend on it, and there has to be, and I get it. I totally get it. And even still, as benign as this is written, it still got shut down by Glenn and Jerry. During this gestation period, I was preparing to tour. I built speaker cabinets, drum risers, and backdrops, researched shipping companies and bus rentals, met with t-shirt printers, contacted a dream list of artists such as Basil Gogos, Ed Repka, Boris Vallejo, I don't know how to say that name, and Mike Landerman. I did interview Basil Gogos for my project, my Lodi project. I have interviewed him. Rest in peace, Basil. I didn't talk to him about the Old Misfits because he never worked with the Old Misfits. I talked with him about Famous Monsters Magazine and the Devilocks. So I hope that those sound bites will make it into whatever the final thing is whenever it comes about. Ken continues. He planned with booking agents, found a road crew, arranged passports and visas, booked flights, revived the Fiend Club, set up interviews and photo shoots, ordered tour merchandise, coordinated hospitality and hotel rooms, organized guest lists and passes, and handled a few other details. In short, once again, I was the band's tour manager and de facto manager. So even though Kenny is not in the band, like musically, he is absolutely part of the heart and soul of this operation and what's going on. And he is so important to the operation. He's invaluable. Invaluable is the word I am looking for here. Cannot be understated enough, or cannot be overstated enough, I should say. My input on all aspects of band functions was requested and respectfully considered. My input wasn't always given. My input wasn't always given the thumbs up, but it was always part of the equation. So saying, even though my suggestions didn't always make it into the final call or whatever, I was still considered, and he had that sort of voice in the operation. What's up, Chris? How you doing? Dudley says, I agree. That's really how I got into the band. My buddy told me they kicked the singer out because he was too crazy. So I was like, I got to hear that. 20 years later, haven't gone a day or ... or more without Danzig. Thank you. Dudley thinks I'm absolutely a great speaker. I love hearing that. Great self-esteem booster. Chris, get off of Facebook. Join us on YouTube. By the way, help us reach 4,000 subscribers. I see 45 people watching on various different platforms. Come and subscribe to the channel. If you subscribe to the channel, you're getting us a little bit closer to our goal of making it to 4,000, which is 40% of the way there to our next long-term goal. So please consider doing that. Okay, sorry. Let's get back into it. Our first public outing came in 1995 at a horror convention in New Jersey called Chiller Theater Expo. Now, this is the third year that Chiller Theater had been operating. I thought that 95 was the first one. We found out during that first episode of the Grim Tales was actually the third year. And that's how they sort of, they had been doing convention stuff. They were even going to Kiss conventions. It was the Misfits had like a Misfits table at a Kiss convention, which might explain why some people think of them also, or why some people have used that term punk rock Kiss. Maybe. Mabel's. In any case, Kenny says, I built a graveyard set complete with smoke machines and lights, featuring pillars, a gate, and tombstones beneath a big Misfits logo. This event proved to be pivotal. Thank you, Joseph. Thank you very, very much. I just see Joseph did something here. I don't know if he subscribed or left a tip or something, but Joseph, we appreciate you. That was on Twitch, I think. Daniel says, thank you, Dudley. I appreciate that. Daniel says, I went to Chiller Theater in the late 90s. Pretty fun. I've been to Chiller Theater 2 or 3 times. One of them was in that year 2011 when I met Sal B. Again, if you go to the Patreon preview that's on, anybody can watch that. It's sort of like a trailer for the Patreon. You can hear about that experience. I won't get into it, but that's when Bobby Steele got married to the mother chick. In any case, he had built this big set. This event proved to be pivotal. We revealed, we revealed the return of the Misfits to the world, and we met Basil Gogos. That's actually where I met Basil as well. I would meet Basil years later there. That's how I got his information. That's how we set up our interview. But at that 1995 Chiller, he met Basil Gogos, Elvira, and John Cafiero. John Cafiero is a huge factor, name, person, whatever you want to call it, in Misfits world after the year 1995. John Cafiero directed the Dig Up Her Bones music video. I think he directed another music video. He basically became the manager of things. He worked very closely with Jerry. He's worked very closely with the Ramones estate as well. He's directed movies for the Insane Clown Posse, which the Misfits make a cameo in, called Big Money Hustlers or Big Money Rustlers, one of those things. And he's still there to this day. I met John Cafiero backstage at the the Chicago Riot Fest show, the second Misfits reunion show with Jerry. They were both there. And I will say this, some people have not had positive experience with John Cafiero, but one thing I'm very grateful to John Cafiero for personally is that he did the commentary with Johnny Ramone and Marky Ramone for Ramones Raw. If anybody knows what Ramones Raw is, it's all of Marky Ramone's home footage. And it got turned into a movie, and it was directed by John Cafiero. Maybe it was directed by Marky Ramone or something. John Cafiero was heavily involved with it. And I have to tell you, he, in the commentary for the thing, you have Johnny and Marky doing the commentary, and Marky is a very talkative guy, very friendly, extroverted, talkative guy. But Marky is. Johnny is just quiet as a church mouse. And thank goodness for John Cafiero being on that commentary, because he's the one who gets Johnny talking. Johnny, who's no longer alive, by the way. So it's like these stories that would just be lost to time had John Cafiero not goaded him into talking. He'd be like, oh, Johnny, he was just asking questions. He was really, really, I mean, he was like interviewing him. He's like, John, so why did you guys do that? Why? He's asking, and he's forcing Johnny to speak. Whereas Johnny might have just been like, oh yeah, that was that, blah, 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 blah. So, I'm actually really grateful to John Cafiero, and I told him so when I met him. The one time I met him, I said, thank you, because you made the listening to that commentary, and you should listen to the commentary. It's a great commentary, so much more enjoyable, because he was competent in being able to realize, like, I need to get Johnny to talk, and he found a way to do that. So kudos to him for doing that. Thank you, John Cafiero. So John Cafiero, he is another figure in this Misfits story. This was also where I was introduced to famous music photographer Frank White, who's the co-author of this book, who introduced us. I don't remember, but the words famous music photographer were used. The first tour by the new Misfits was in Europe, and it was a real eye-opener. That was on the Green Hell bus, if I recall. Many things had changed since the old days. We were no longer a garage band from Lodi. Turnouts were large, enthusiasm was high, and the band got lots of press. Because here's the thing. What is this band? Remember this thing. Remember this. This is important to note. This is the band post Metallica wearing those t-shirts, right? It's not Glenn Danzig being like, I hate the Misfits. Like, I only want to talk about Danzig stuff, yada, yada, yada. It's not Bobby Steele performing Bullet and I Turn Into a Martian, whatever, and Rat Fink and whatever else he's playing. This is essentially what people are seeing as the second coming of this band, despite not having the creative driving force in the band, which is ridiculous in and of itself. I will always say that. I have to say that. I would be remiss, no matter how political it might be, not to say that. I have to say it. It's true, man. It's true. But that's why, I mean, that's the you have this big contrast in what's sort of going on, and it's because this band had percolated in the underground, and now they were somewhat not mainstream, but they were like, and they had pushed to the top of the underground. Let's say that they were on the cave ceiling of the underground. How about that? Daniel says, super awesome guy. Talking about John Cafiero. Listen, I have to tell you, he was super duper nice and friendly to me, and we had a wonderful brief conversation. He was very tickled to hear that I had even listened to that Ramones commentary, as I recalled, and was more than happy to talk about it with me. So I thought that was pretty cool of him. So sad that none of the original Ramones are with us now. They were always an amazing band live. Yeah, again, that's why having stuff like that, like none of them are around. Here I am listening to Ramones Raw, and instead of just letting the tape run out, whoever was recording, the engineer, it's like, here's this guy like choding, like elbowing Johnny Ramone, like, hey, tell me more about this. Tell me about this. And we're just getting all this stuff that we wouldn't have gotten. So the Ramones are gone, but the stories live on. Same thing with Monty Melnick, man. I mean, that guy is he's the keeper of the stuff. Daniel says, sorry, I met Dave Vanian. You met Dave Vanian at Chiller. Yeah, so one thing to note is that the Misfits have always been kind of obsessed with Dave Vanian on some way, shape, or form, whether it's Glenn writing songs for Dave to sing or wanting to just like back Dave in some way, or Jerry just fixated on getting Dave to sing for the new version of the band, having the Damned on Fiend Fest. Jerry did a Fiend Fest thing where he had the Damned play, and then 40 years later, after they opened for the Damned and put themselves on the map, the Damned are opening for them at Madison Square Garden. Unreal when you think about that. Where were we? We were no longer a garage band from Lodi. Turnouts were large, enthusiasm was high, and the band got lots of press. Even with all of the prep that I had done, I was totally out of step with how touring had grown. That tour taught me a great deal. We returned to the States with lessons learned. They had toured in a giant green school bus that they called Green Hell, and they didn't have any heat. It was crazy. So they returned to the States with lessons learned, and things moved quickly. We toured the U.S. We met Michael Alago, who signed us to Geffen Records. So Michael Alago, he was a fixture of the punk scene in New York. I mean, Michael Alago has signed a lot of Michael Alago is associated with Metallica. A bunch of guys. There's a documentary about him by Drew Stone called "Who the F Is That Guy?" And he's friends with Glenn and Doyle and Jerry and whatnot. And Michael Alago was also the promoter for the show. The one time that the Misfits and the Undead played together, that show was Michael Alago, who booked that show as a promoter. And there's a whole crazy story behind that, which I have on Bobby talking about on tape. Apparently, it was all recorded on tape too, U-matic tape. As to who was in possession of that U-matic tape, well, it remains a mystery. Baby, not to me. Funny, muddy mystery, but baby, not to me. In any case, we met Michael Alago, who signed us to Geffen Records. Then the band released American Psycho in 1997. While making 2 videos for the record, I first became the Crimson Ghost, a role I would proudly reprise many times on stage. So the stage show gets more elaborate, and I'm not going to even try and talk about it. We should let Tank, John, I don't even know what to call him, Jim. We should let Jim talk about it when he comes back on the show. Let him tell us, because he was there and intimately involved in that on that side of operations. He could really tell us. 1999 brought the second all-new Misfits record, Famous Monsters, featuring cover art by Basil Gogos, based on a photo by Boris Vallejo, two of the greatest artists of our time. I contacted George Romero, and we agreed he would direct the video for Scream if the Misfits could appear in a movie he was directing, and that was called Bruiser. So the Misfits and George Romero, they basically did a trade. George Romero, who was kind of floundering in obscurity to an extent, he was up in Canada. He was beginning his run in Canada, where he finished his career. He would only make movies for 9 more years after that. His last film was Survival of the Dead, which is such a sad thing to think that was George Romero's last movie. Such a bummer. But the Misfits would appear in Bruiser with Peter Stormare and what's his face? Jason, what is his name? Fleming? Robbie asks, do I like Bruiser? Yes, very much. Very much. I think it's a very underrated George Romero film about a dude who loses his face and has to murder people to get it back, kind of. Peter Stormare is a great villain in it. And the Misfits do appear. And the footage that they shot for the live footage that Romero shot was then cut in for a video for Scream, and Tank appears in that video, and that's the whole. You've heard the controversy about how Michael Graves didn't show up the first day or something, and then he came in. They had to use a double for him or something like that. Yes, they did have the Max's Xmas shirt. I like Bruiser, man. I really do. I really, really do. In any case, yeah, they did a nice trade-off. What a great trade-off. They got to work with George Romero, the legend himself, right? I contacted George Romero, and we agreed that he would direct the video for Scream if the Misfits could appear in a movie he was directing. The zombie makeup for Scream was created by my close friend, Glenn Hetrick, now perhaps the most sought-after special effects man in Hollywood. The Misfits continued to tour the globe, playing many shows with great bands. I didn't take photographs during these years. I was always busy by the side of the stage waiting to fix any problems. I could never match Frank's work anyway. At the start of each year, I mailed a laminate pass and a crew shirt to Frank White, so that he could get into any Misfit show during the year. He would show up unexpectedly in the weirdest cities and at the weirdest times in countries all over the place. I love Frank's work. If you get a chance, feel free to thank me for making sure this man and his camera got into all of those shows. And yeah, he says, I thought Ken, so this is Frank White says this, I thought Ken, the third brother, joining the two longtime members of the band and assuming the role of the ghost was really cool. It is really cool. I agree. So here we go. Here's this is part 2 now. And this is when Doyle was not doing the makeup yet, right? Doyle now he does this full makeup, and Doyle's makeup is really good. Doyle has a very thorough makeup. He like gets it behind the ears. He does like the sunken in face. He said that Lurch is his inspiration for his modern version of the makeup. And you'll see here, Jerry is wearing this weird thing with the spikes on the back of his hand. I think that it's possible that must be left over from the Christ the Conqueror days, right? And this is one of his old basses and his old Misfits jacket, which he would keep for many. He wore that for a good 5 years before he ditched that for whatever he was wearing when for the M25 years with Marky Ramone and Dez and whatnot. I'm going to be periodically reminding anybody who is joining us for the first time to please subscribe to the channel. Got a lot of new peeps here. I really appreciate it if you would subscribe to the channel. Thank you. During the black and white glory days of the 1940s and 1950s, this is Frank White, by the way, my mom was a photographer for the department stores and photo studios in New York City. She always had cameras around, and I loved looking at her photo albums of our family. By the way, real quick, I just realized these photos must have been from the time this is from the day they met at Chiller Theater in 1995. I think that's what I think we're looking at here. In any case, by the time I was 6 or 7 in the late 1960s, she began to encourage my interest by projecting her Kodachrome color slides on a big screen in our house. I was impressed and inspired, and shortly after, she began allowing me to use her cameras to take photos of sights and people around our neighborhoods in New Milford, New Jersey. That's the same neighborhood where Bobby Steele grew up. I discovered music around the same time, starting with the hippie era bands that played the Woodstock Festival. From there, I got into rock bands, including Led Zeppelin, Black Sabbath, and the Allman Brothers. I ventured into a head shop up the street from me, George's Joint, which had stars and planets painted on the ceiling and sold incense, water pipes, cool clothing, and music posters. I came home with underground comic books like the fabulous Furry Freak Brothers. Is that what it's saying? It's very hard to read, guys. This text, white on black and white. Fritz the Cat. Oh no, Fritz the Cat movie made by Ralph Bakshi, and Mr. Natural. And my mom promptly marched me back to the store to return them. Ouch. Yeah, this was at Chiller Theater, Syracuse, New Jersey, April 1995. That's when he met Frank White, and that's when they all met. I was using my allowance to buy rock and monster magazines, plastic rat fink and weirdo monster and car model kits, and comic books. The back pages of those comics always featured ads for kids to make money selling flower and vegetable seeds. With my parents' help, I started selling seeds door to door in my neighborhood. I also started to sell boosters for my baseball teams and candy for the Boy Scouts. Doing this, I learned skills that came in handy down the road. I listened to music on my parents' radio and my own GE Mickey Mouse and later Sears tie-dye pattern record players. My TV diet was a mixture of cartoons, wacky sitcoms, Chiller Theater, which takes the name, Chiller Theater, the convention takes the name from the TV show Chiller Theater, and watching rock bands on the Ed Sullivan Show, The Midnight Special, and Dan Kirshner's rock concert. I was still too young for concerts, but that was about to change. All right, on to the next page here. Here we go. That's Frank. Here's Frank White with Jerry and Doyle Uncle Jerry and Cousin Doyle. Okay. Okay. Hold on real quick. Okay, Dan confirms it. Yes to the gloves being in Christ. So those were the Christ gloves that early. I do think it is. It's a pretty cool picture. Dudley says mushrooms and misfits go well together. Freak Brother comics were the best, says Prone. Dudley never knew much of Chud besides the bad, if true. I have no comment. I will only say that if you know, you know, and the information is out there if you want to seek it. Allegedly. I like the odd Tales from the Crypt. I love Tales from the Crypt. Love Tales from the Crypt. The best. The best is the best is the best is the best. All right, let's keep going. We Frank. So here's Frank with Misfits, Jerry and Doyle. We moved one town over to Bergenfield, New Jersey in 1974. Then I started to notice ads in the New York Times and Arts and Leisure section for bands playing in the area. I heard on the radio that Led Zeppelin, one of my favorite bands, would be performing at Madison Square Garden on February 12th, 1975. I already knew the New York City public transportation system, as my mom did not like driving, makes sense, and we would take the trains and buses to see her parents in the Bronx. I hatched a plan. Without my mom knowing, I snuck out one of her cameras into a plastic bag and hid it inside my winter jacket. I told her I was going to a friend's house and that I would be back by midnight. After all, I lived in a safe community. My parents had nothing to worry about, but the bus to New York was just up the street and I hopped aboard. I was 12 years old at the time. Wow. This is a great story. I walked 10 blocks from the Port Authority bus terminal, I know where that is, at 42nd Street to Madison Square Garden, stopping on the way to buy slide film for the camera. At the box office, I bought the closest ticket to the stage available. Imagine that you could do that like that. In the 12th row of the orchestra section. As soon as the lights went dark, the show began. I headed right for the front of the stage and started taking photographs. It was a very overwhelming experience for me. The music was so loud that I had to stuff my ears with small bits of napkins from my pocket. I dodged security guards several times. The stage was too high for me to see over, so I had to find a seat a few rows back to shoot the band. Afterward, I ran back to the bus station and made it home just before midnight, before my parents started to worry about me. You know, I was really scared for that story. I was afraid it was going to end up being like, oh, my camera got broken or, stolen or something bad happened to me. I'm really glad that turned out okay. The story turned out okay. That makes me happy is what I'm trying to say. When I developed my slides, the results were better than I expected, thanks to 5 years of my mom teaching me how to frame photographs, set my exposures right, and hold the camera steady. I wanted to photograph more shows. I was delivering newspapers for money, and the tips were good. I could afford the tickets and the film, and I became very cunning. I snuck into the city over and over and over again. For the next year or so, I learned how to get good concert tickets close to the front of the stage. I went back into the city to photograph other bands like Chicago, Alice Cooper, Rainbow with Dio in it, of course, Black Oak, Arkansas, Robin Trower, Aerosmith, and Black Sabbath. In 1977, my father bought me a camera at my request, and it was the best gift he ever got me. Why hasn't Frank? I wonder if Frank's put out a photo book of all these bands he's seen. My parents noticed that I had a knack for taking good photos and began allowing me to go to shows with their knowledge, putting an end to my secret life. Generally those stories don't end well. And that ended very well. And I'm very happy for Frank that he didn't have so much trouble. You know what I mean? Dealing with that. Soon I started working at a nearby Dunkin' Donuts. With more money in my pocket, I began going to concerts weekly, sometimes straight from school. He sounds like me when I go to the Alamo Drafthouse. This became my lifestyle as a teenager. I sold my photos to friends in the neighborhood and at school. And so the lifestyle gained momentum. Eventually, Friends could not keep up with me, and I ended up often going to shows solo. That is sounds so, dude. I so relate, Frank. I can totally relate. I regularly hung out at the on a strip in my town filled with cool stores like the Camp, Record Mill, the Pyramid, and Collector's World, a flea market kind of operation where people sold movie posters, records, t-shirts, buttons, and other collectibles. Mark Yaudowitz, definitely a Jew, who owned, again, just to let people know, that's something that we do, us Jews do. We have to notate when we see another Jewish name or a Jew, and we go, oh yeah, that guy's definitely, it's just the thing that we do. Nothing wrong being Jewish, just saying. That's what we do. Yes, I cannot imagine. My son is 6, and the idea of him going into the city by himself at 12 is terrifying to me. And I can't imagine. I would just be like, I couldn't allow it. I don't know. That's better than any Misfits story. I don't know about that, but it's a very great, like, growing up story, like, I'm growing up sort of story. I like that a lot. So Mark owned this store with his brother Kenny. They liked Frank's photos and asked if I wanted to sell them in his store. I was really surprised that he thought they were good enough. For a small fee, I rented 2 display boxes offering my pictures to the public. The photos sold well. Soon after, a friend of mine struck a deal with some shore attraction owners in Seaside Heights, New Jersey, to start using my photos as boardwalk game prizes. If not for this store, its owners and a writer, if it were not for this store, its owners and a writer I would soon be meeting named Jerry Rubino, I probably would not have pursued a career in music photography. That same year, I heard about a punk band from nearby Lodi called the Misfits. Their shows were advertised in our local music paper, the Aquarian Weekly. The band had a horror look that appealed to me, but I never had a chance to photograph them. At the time, I was 15 years old, and the Misfits ... played bars that required you to be 18 to enter. So here is the famous photos. We've seen these photos many times of Uncle Jerry, Cousin Doyle, and Aunt Elvira together, who, they had an affinity for Vampira, and now here they are with Elvira sometime later. True story, I believe Vampire sued Elvira at one point. I don't know if somebody told me that here on this channel, but I remember hearing that somewhere. Dudley says it's true. They wanted Peter Steele. He recommended Mikey. Yep. Very, very different times. Very, very different times. There it is. That's what I thought. Mom says cool parents understood his talent. Yeah, I was thinking the same thing, man. I was thinking the same thing. I think about this a lot. Being a dad, I think about this stuff a lot, and I think about like just trying to have like my radar, like just be aware of what makes my son go, like really, like, what drives him or what he like gravitates towards, and just nurture it. I feel like that's the key, man. Don't worry. It doesn't matter what it is. The only thing that should matter, I'm just talking about myself and my son. I'm not talking about, this is not parental advice for anybody else. I'm just saying, whatever it is, the key thing, it doesn't matter what it is. If it's ballet dancing, or if it's drawing, or if it's fishing, or if it's soccer or baseball, the only thing that should matter is the passion. That's the only thing I should care about, I think. As long as he's passionate about something and puts 120% in, I'll be there to support him. And so, yeah, like, I just think that's, I don't know. I just saw that. That's what I keyed in on when I was reading Frank's story, just to nurture interests, man. That's what you should do. Nurture friggin' interests, I think. Dudley says it would have been crazy to have Peter Steele. I think Dudley's behind in the show because he's talking about, yeah. Elvira absolutely ripped off Vampira. Yes, but she did not win. Vampira did not win that lawsuit, I believe. They say it in the Ed Wood movie about Elvira. Huh. All right. let us talk very briefly about our sponsor, riotstickers.com. As you can see, this wonderful banner behind me, they make banners. Riotstickers.com is a independent print business run by the one, the only Sharpie Riot himself. They 100% independent, DIY, very personable. They work with a lot of bands, and we're doing a special promotion with them. They are sponsors on this channel, and currently, if you use the promo code Frumess, you can get 50% off one of the best deals on the internet for stickers. If you need stickers, think about this. 3 inches by 3 inches of real estate for whatever your image is. You can get 50 of those bad boys. Normally, that would cost you $59. And you can go check. I mean, that's kind of like that. That's kind of the way it is. But we're offering it to you with this special promo code of Frumess for $29.50. And the link for that is in the description below. I also just want to quickly highlight that very soon there's a contest. There's something's happening in Riot Land with this channel. It's not, there'll be more to say when the time is right. I'm just saying, keep your eyes peeled for a big announcement coming up with riotstickers.com. That's all I want to say. Oh, we got to play the video. Got to play the video. And also, I'll take this moment to also say, please, if you have not already, please subscribe to this channel. It's a great way to support the channel. Anyway, riotstickers.com.
We make stickers, banners, and buttons too. Posters and promo cards. There's nothing we can't print for you. From stage backdrops to bass drum heads. We can print on shirts. We can print on hats. We can print on pants. Cheap prices and high quality. Quick turnaround times and free shipping. We also offer free artwork support. Great customer service and so much more. RiotStickers.com. Riot Stickers, we are the bomb. RiotStickers.com. Riot Stickers, we are the bomb. RiotStickers.com. Riot Stickers, we are the bomb. RiotStickers.com. Riot Stickers, we are the bomb.
And we are back. Thank you. Riotstickers.com. Check it out. Link in the description. Okay. So back to Frank White. Soon, Jerry Rubino from the local Syracuse Home News asked to use a photo I had taken of Greg Lake from Emerson Lake and Palmer at the Capitol Theater in Passaic. This was great. Encouraged, I decided to start contacting music magazines. I got in contact with Relics magazine. It's a big magazine. I think they're still around, Relics. That was kind of like a jam band magazine, hippie magazine. And they ran a full page photo of mine of Jorma Koknen from Hot Tuna in the November 1982 issue. I started to sell photos to other music magazines, including Guitar World, Rock Fever, Rock World, Kick Ass, Cream, Circus, Hit Parader, Rock Scene, and Kerrang! During this period, the original Misfits disbanded. I thought I had missed my opportunity to photograph them. However, within a few years, I received an assignment to photograph Glenn Danzig's post-Misfits band Samhain in July 1986 at the Ritz in New York. Why is that show significant? That is the final original Samhain show before the 1999 reformation. That was Damien's last live show and London May's last live show with Samhain. That show, or at least at that time, London would come back in 1999. That show was completely crazy. Glenn was right in my face the whole night, and the crowd was in frenzy mode. I got some cool photos of what turned out to be Samhain's last show. Almost 2 years later, Glenn called to ask me to photograph his new band Danzig, with Glenn singing, Eerie Vaughn on bass, John Christ on guitar, and Chuck Biscuits on drums. I was to meet them in Lodi, New Jersey, and photograph them near Route 80, a major highway full of busy traffic. I found some dead looking trees and weeds and started taking photos. And then we moved locations to a Lodi church that Glenn thought would look interesting. A few days later, Glenn asked if I could photograph Danzig's first show on April 9th, 1988 at City Gardens in Trenton. I did another photo session backstage with the band that night. Fast forward 7 years to April 1995, and that year's installment of the annual New Jersey Horror Convention Chiller Theater Expo, named after the old WPIX TV monster movie program. Now, WPIX would continue to do all sorts of horror movies. They just stopped using the Chiller Theater banner. I grew up on WPIX Channel 11 horror movies, just not in the same kind of way. Gary, I'm glad to hear that. The Less Than Jake guy song is growing on you. That's cool. Alan says, I'm not going to read that out loud, but I totally understand, Alan. I totally get it. I totally get it. Hello. Okay, let's get back to this. So fast forward to the blah, 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 WPIX monster movie program. The event was the brainchild of my old friend, Kevin Clement, who had sold records to me years earlier from a booth at Collector's World in Bergenfield. He invited me to come take photos during the 3-day event. Now, Kevin had a band called the Dead Elvi that would always play with Bobby Steele in later years of the Chiller convention. So he knew that they would be published. Kevin knew that they would be published nationally and would help spread the word about the expo. Along with many iconic horror movie and TV stars making appearances and signing autographs, I was happy to see that local punk legends Jerry Only and Doyle from the Misfits would be guests. I made plans to meet them. The day of the expo, the first people I encountered at the Hilton Hotel were the two brothers, Jerry and Doyle, both in full makeup, standing in full stage regalia in front of a big gray styrofoam castle wall with black gates and a big Misfits logo, which is just so Jerry Only, man. Like Uncle Jerry, for the kids. We do it for the kids. I had wanted to photograph. This was my first sight in the flesh of the two guys I had wanted to photograph for 15 years. I was impressed, and even more so when I learned that the sets and costumes had been built by themselves and their brother, Ken Caiafa. I introduced myself and found everyone to be friendly. I asked Ken to shoot a photo of us together with my camera. I shot several photos of Ken, Doyle, and Jerry, and some friends. I let them know I was very interested in working with them. Later that day, with the help of Eddie Micah from the Chiller Expo, I arranged for TV horror hostess Elvira to pose for photos with Jerry and Doyle and a giant Misfits horror magazine cover mock-up. The photo ended up in Thrasher, the skateboard magazine. Jerry, Doyle, and Ken were happy when the photo was published. Thrasher was the perfect setting for the first new Misfits photo seen anywhere since the early 1980s. That October, they invited me to photograph them at a Halloween-haunted corn maze and hayride in Woodcliff Lake, New Jersey. There, I met a guy sporting a devil lock and dressed similarly to them. They introduced him as their new drummer, Dr. Chud, and they announced that they were restarting the Misfits. I shot some photos of the three, and later that month, I photographed the band at the Chance in Poughkeepsie, New York, with Michael Graves, their new 21-year-old lead singer from Dumont, New Jersey. You know what's funny? And I don't know. This is just an inkling that I have. I have no knowledge of this. Well, wait a minute. This is kind of cool. Check this out. Rare exclusive. I'm looking at the magazine right here. It's a Static Age, TV Casualty. So it has all the names of the songs. Teenagers from Mars, Bullet. Famous Misfits of Musicland. That's a cool mock-up. I wonder where that is now. There's all the names of the songs. Here's a photo of Danzig. I think that's at the first Danzig show, right? Let's see. Yeah, that's the first. Oh no, okay, that's the first New York City solo show at the Ritz in 1988. Not the first band show, which was in April in New Jersey. Okay, before we get to here, I just want to take a quick note. I just like, talking about like the haunted corn maze, in Wood Lake, New Jersey. I just get the feeling like, obviously Jerry and Doyle are both into doing this, but obviously it's Jerry. Jerry is the driving force. He's always been the driving force after Glenn was no longer involved. It was always Jerry who was like the main driving force. And I just got like this, like just imagining in my head of like Jerry being like, come on, Doyle, we got to go. We got to go to the haunted maze. We got to go to the, and Doyle's just like, doesn't want to go. Like that should just be its own comic strip or like cartoon of like Doyle reluctantly be like, gotta go to this fucking maze now. Like, and Jerry's like, come on, for the kids. We'll have fun. We'll take pictures at the maze. Just like that sort of thing. Like I just get like, it's they have to like go make all these appearances like the local haunted car wash. Like it's like Halloween and they have to like open, they do the ribbon cutting ceremony for a car wash because Jerry's like, hey, publicity, it's good. And Doyle's just kind of like, oh, all right, Jerry, whatever you want. That sort of thing. I just get that kind of like inkling when I see some of those photos. I don't know. In any case, barely 3 months later, in February of 1996, Jerry asked me to shoot the Misfits' first full photo session with Graves. I jumped at the chance. They asked me to meet them at their barn in Warwick, New York, right over the border from Vernon, New Jersey. The band lived in, in 1982, 1983, the Caiafa family, the Caiafa, clan packed up and moved from Lodi, New Jersey to Vernon, New Jersey, where they had the Pro Edge factory. And they just, that's where they still are to this day. So that's where they're situated. They all live up there or at least they were based out of there. And, I know Doyle, I think Jerry moved to Chicago for a while. I think Doyle was in Las Vegas for a time. But I think that Vernon has always been some sort of home base for those guys, always been a destination, that sort of thing. And that's where their dad had moved that factory and whatnot. And then the other side of that is Warwick. So I'm in Westchester. If you cross the Tappan Zee Bridge to the other side, that's Nyack. And you keep going and you're basically bordering with northern Jersey. If you want to go to Bergen County, you would go south across the George Washington Bridge and you'd be there. I believe Lodi is something like 10 minutes commute to Manhattan from it is essentially its own suburb of New York City, despite being in another state. In any case, they asked Frank to meet them at their barn in Warwick, New Jersey, right over the border from Vernon, New Jersey. Warwick, New York, right over the border from Vernon, New Jersey. The band lived in the area and ran their operation out of a motorcycle shop located in the back part of the same building as their father's machine shop, Pro Edge. From the outside, the Warwick barn appeared to be part of a normal farm compound from about 100 years ago. Inside, the place was like a stone castle. The Caiafa brothers are very artistic, and they had customized their surroundings to fit their vision. Photographing the band there was like being on a horror movie set. In fact, they had designed the location for a TV show where the Misfits would introduce and discuss classic horror and sci-fi movies. And we've seen some of that on YouTube. Matter of fact, I've been wanting to cover that on the show for a long time. The Crawling Eye, the Hideous Sun Demon, and Horror Hotel. Something like that. Robbie says less than 10 miles, but 40 minutes minimum because of traffic. There you go. Robbie lives right next to Lodi. Not to reveal Robbie's secret location. Robbie is a native of the area. We'll just say that. How about that? Oh no, I need that in my life. Scooby-Doo Misfits. Yes. I think we all do. So yeah, they had an idea. They were gonna like, hey, we're gonna be just like Elvira or Zachary or whoever, and do this. And once again going back to Jerry, like, come on, let's go do the corn maze. It's like, come on, Doyle, let's do this. Let's, and Doyle's being forced to say this dialogue about hideous sun demons. Poor Doyle. And Jerry's like, super enthusiastic. Yeah, for the kids. He's like over the top about it. So in any case, he arrived to find everything that he needed. Cobwebs all around, rusty chains on wooden poles, a huge table with skulls, of course, and some with giant fangs, and an impressive candelabra, mounted metal tubes on the wall, shooting flames. Wow. And an electric chair for good measure. We were in horror heaven. I set up my lights and started taking crazy looking photos. I shot everything on a color slide film for magazines, and we converted some of the photos into black and whites for promotional photos. In May of 1997, the revived Misfits released American Psycho, the band's first new record since 1983's Earth AD Wolf's Blood. The package included a few photos of mine from live shows at the Roseland Ballroom in New York City and the Chance in Poughkeepsie. A live photo of mine of Doyle from the Chance was used for an advertisement album flat with the American Psycho cover on one side and the Doyle photo on the other. It was exciting to be a part of shaping the visual side of the band's return, since the Misfits hadn't been seen since October of 1983. I soon returned to the Warwick barn to shoot production stills as the band filmed its first music video, Dig Up Her Bones. Oh, I did not realize that. So that's where that was done, was at that barn. They shot the clip at night in the field behind their barn. When I arrived, and that was directed by John Cafiero, who we mentioned earlier. When I arrived, the entire area looked like the site of a Martian ship landing. I couldn't see anything but purple, yellow, green, and red lights with smoke billowing from the tall grass. I stumbled a bit in the darkness. I'm lucky I didn't break any bones or my camera equipment. Arriving at the set, I found Dr. Chud's drums set in the grass in the weeds, surrounded by styrofoam stone castle pillars with gargoyles on top, scattered tombstones, a very angry-looking fake monster tree, and a hanging Fiend Way sign with a pointing skeleton arm. We've seen that in the music video, of course. Michael was filmed amongst the tombstones, shoveling dirt into the air as Jerry pounded on his bass. The video shoot went well into the night, and it was one of the wildest shoots I have ever done. Also in this video, Ken Caiafa introduced his creepy Crimson Ghost costume, which brought to life the persona of the band. His character added something extra and scary to the live show too, as he would creep around the stage with a torch, coaxing the crowd into a frenzy. By the late 1990s, and eventually Tank, Jim, he would come on stage as a Frankenstein. He became Frankenstein's monster, that sort of thing. By the late 1990s, the Misfits had polished their theatrical side, making for a more entertaining experience than just the average punk show. It's funny, when I used to interview people for this Misfits project, I would always ask them the question, were the Misfits a theatrical band? And you know what? The answer was always somewhat like yes or yeah. But they weren't really that. I mean, in 1979, they were, when they were doing the Coffins, but the hardcore version of the Misfits weren't that theatrical. The Misfits became very theatrical in 1995, 1996. That's when the band started to become more theatrical. The stage presentation was totally like this whole, it was this whole thing with, with the Crimson Ghost, or having Frankenstein, and, Dr. Chud crawling out from underneath the drum riser, or Graves coming out in a straitjacket, that whole thing, Doyle applied more facial makeup over time to really give himself a skeletal face appearance, right? It evolved. He and brother Jerry continued working out to keep up that imposing physical appearance, and their spikes grew bigger and sharper. It's like, it really was like an evolution, man. Likewise, Michael Graves changed his look often, adding full skull makeup, wrapping black tape around his hands and limbs, and mixing it up and jumping into the crowd whenever he could. Now, mind you, Michael Graves eventually moved away from the Devilock for, I don't know, probably a few different reasons, I would imagine. But one of them was that he, being a 21-year-old kid who's not molding into what Jerry wants him to be and sort of rebelling against the other guys, much to Jerry's dismay. Jerry did not like Graves, bleaching his hair and whatnot, stuff like that. In any case, during his years playing drums from 1995 to 2000, newcomer Dr. Chud would crawl out from under the drum riser, breaking out of his cage with the help of the Crimson Ghost. The band also introduced a gigantic TV screen on stage that showed old horror movies while they played. The Misfits gave me a permanent all-access they gave me permanent all-access laminates and crew shirts, and I took advantage of the status to shoot the band from all angles. I showed up wherever I could at different gigs around the US and Europe. That's really cool. It is really cool, and it's really cool that Jerry and Kenny and whoever, John Cafiero, whoever was in charge of that, gave Frank White so much access, and as a result, you have all these awesome photos, right? Look at these shots. Oh my God. By the way, guys, I am seeing this for the first time with you. I may have seen some of these shots in the past, but like the ones we saw earlier with Elvira, I've never seen these shots. Look at Chud there. Oh my God. Oh my God. With no makeup and eyebrows. You see Doyle with eyebrows. So weird. And his Devilock is a lot more awkward looking than it is now. Top, Dawn of the Living Misfits Halloween Festival. So that was the Corn Maze at Woodcliff Lake, New Jersey, October 1995. So Chud is in the band now, but Jerry is not, but Michael Graves is not officially in the band yet. East Coast comeback he is, right. October 1995 is when Graves finally comes in the band, but Graves had been auditioning for them for over a year, going back to, at some point in 1994. I believe. You know what I'm saying? Mom says, yes, the theatrical aspect was really elevated in the late 90s. I think that really brought in a new audience. Totally. Probably helped with the guarantees as well. Alan says, thank you so much for showing this book. I really need it. Again, I just to be aware, if this book was available for purchase, we would not be showing it. You would go out and buy the book and support, Ken and Frank. You cannot do that. This book is not allowed to be sold commercially. It has been blocked. And so because it's been blocked, we are just looking at the book and reviewing it and just sort of going over it. And yeah. Robbie Bloodshed seems to have mispronounced Dr. Chud's name. He calls him, what is that word? Chodies? Oh, you mean Chode. He looks so small compared to the brothers. He is. Chud is really small, really, really short. And it's funny. The last time I was with Dr. Chud, and I told you my whole story, I was at his girlfriend's house. He lives at his girlfriend's house, and he has like this weight room where he like lifts weights and stuff. And there are these pictures of him, but they're like these like illustrated, like coloring photo pictures of him. And I guess he hangs them up for inspiration. And Chud is in great shape for his age. I mean, Chud's, in his 50s. He's like in 57, 58 years old. He's in better shape than I am. He's in much better shape than I am. I'm 36. So, I'm not really one to talk, but it was interesting. But Chud is a small guy. He's a short guy. He's not a tall guy at all. I'd say, God, he must be 5'8", 5'7", something like that. He's not a very tall guy. So that makes sense for sure. But hey, again, to call a spade, dude takes good care of himself, at least, physically. Like, he does work out. At least he did last time I was with him. You're learning a lot today. Oh, there's so much more to learn if you wanted to. Oh my goodness. Yeah, this is a channel where you learn things. Chodies. What's a chody? Who would win in a fight? Chud or Gary Glitter? Ooh, that's a good comparison there. I don't know. It depends on maybe I shouldn't say what I'm gonna say. All right, I'm not gonna say it. I'm not gonna go there. You know where to look if you want to know more about this on my channel. There's a whole video about it. I'm not gonna do it there. Smaller than that. You're cutting too much slack. No, come on. He's about 5'7". He's about 5'7", maybe 5'8", something like that. Hey, listen, Dr. Chode is thicker than he is taller. Hey, you know what they say? Don't punch down. You should only punch up. Sorry, Chud. Hi, Chud. In case he watches this later. Hi, Chud. Sorry, we're talking too much about Chud. Let's let it go. Let's stop now. We're talking about history. In any case, where were we? Above all, I tried to wait. The Misfits. Oh God, I already lost my place because we were punching down on Chud, which was wrong. Let's stop. As always, in the summer of 1999, I surprised the band by showing up at With Full Force Festival in Labnitz, Germany. That was my first photo assignment on an active airfield with planes taking off and landing during a music festival. As always, Jerry Only was so comfortable with his surroundings, he would just walk out into the crowd and have a good time with fans because Jerry is like the greatest extrovert that ever existed. There's nobody more approachable. Like, he is super easy to talk to, super approachable in that kind of way. The Misfits of the 1990s made a name for themselves, independent of their classic legacy. As long as Jerry Only and Doyle remained at the core of the band, the fans seemed to accept whatever newcomers joined them. I don't know if that's entirely true. I mean, Graves got a lot. I mean, Graves really, really, really got crapped on at the beginning. I don't think Chud did as much. I think Chud was more accepted than Graves. And, rightfully, I mean, Graves had a bullseye on him because he was, essentially, at least by what Jerry and Doyle were advertising, he was trying to fill Glenn Danzig's shoes. Not easy to do. Not easy to do at all. The Misfits of the 1990s made right. At every show around the world, I always saw a packed house. They already had a plan in their heads for what they wanted to do. I would go along with their concepts. Above all, I tried to photograph them always in makeup. I didn't want to ruin it for the fans to show them in their street clothes and no ghoul gear. I did a few sessions with Jerry at both of his homes in Vernon, New Jersey. The first was in the basement of his earlier house, surrounded by gym equipment, monster masks, and what was ever lying around the room. I actually helped him move into the next house, carrying endless boxes of horror memorabilia. Metal Hammer magazine in England had asked me to do a photo session with him, relaxing at home. I shot some photos of him mugging with giant toy soldier Christmas decorations, wearing a Santa hat, and capturing him in front of his fireplace with his dogs and his collection of famous monsters of Filmland magazines, all in full makeup and costume, of course. The closest we got to breaking character were a few photos of him with his acoustic guitars. I shot a couple of Misfit shows during 2000, both in New Jersey, the Birch Hill nightclub in Old Bridge on August 12th, and the Rec Room in Wallington on September 26th. The Rec Room was a very local show just a few blocks away from Lodi, the original hometown of the Misfits. That turned out to be the last show for Michael Graves, this time for good. Huh, wait, what? All right, that doesn't make any sense. The Rec Room was a very local show just a few blocks away from Lodi, the original hometown of the Misfits. That turned out to be the last show for Michael Graves. Is he talking about in 1998 when Michael left? Michael Graves left the first time in 1998. I don't even know the full history. We're going to have to ask Tank what happened when Michael Graves left the band. I don't remember. I've heard from the Mike Hideous documentary that he wanted to go to hockey camp or something, but I don't even know if that was the full. I don't know what this is in reference to. Hold on, real quick, bro. Robbie wants me to do the chud impression, which is really, this is me copying Loki. Hey, bro. This is my understanding. He's just like, okay. But then, but when Loki does it, he goes, he does the shoulder thing, which I think is so funny. Hey, bro. It's pretty funny. It's a very cool book. I like this book a lot. Probably because the Misfits went through so many genres. Yes, they did. Oh, as to why people embrace chud. Yeah, yes, that's a great observation, Neon Knees. Great observation. I do concur. So hold on. So this was the last show for Michael Graves, this time for good. Michael had fit just right as a band member. Hold on. This is interesting. With great singing ability and his constant motion on the stage. He always engaged the fans, plus he was a really nice guy to be around. The next Misfit to leave was Dr. Chud toward the end of October of 2000. Now, I'm a little confused here. I guess, you know what? I guess Michael Graves left even earlier than that final time of October 2000. We're going to have to get the facts straight. I mean, this is interesting. I never heard. Does anybody know this, that Michael Graves left earlier than October of 2000? Chud left in October of 2000, never came back. The three of them walked off stage. Doyle, Chud, and Michael Graves walked off stage and left Jerry to do 138 by himself. On November 26th, I shot the Misfits at Trocadero in Philadelphia with Jerry Only on bass, Doyle on guitar, and Renfield on drums. I don't know much about Renfield, or I know they had Zoli from Ignite singing on vocals, and then this guy Renfield. I really don't know too much about him. The packed crowd loved the show, and Jerry jumped backward off the side balcony into the audience. Regardless, I missed the two band members that had come to call friends during the previous 5 years. After 2001, I felt like the Misfits started to separate again. Yeah, no duh. They weren't the same group of members that I had photographed so many times in the previous 6 years. I started to hang back a little, just going to a show here and there. In 2002, I did just one photo session with Jerry at the Roseland Ballroom in New York. The last time I photographed the Misfits live was the HFS Festival at the Merriweather Post Pavilion in Columbia, Maryland. Only 3 members were on stage, Jerry Only playing bass and singing, Uncle Dez on guitar, and Robo returning on drums after going back and forth with the Misfits during the 1980s. My photos were the band's all-purpose promo shots during the late 90s. Besides a Halloween card shoot with a pinup girl, Helen Blazes. Right, they had that cartoon character, Helen Blazes. Some of my live photos were made into Misfits baseball cards. My photos of Jerry and Doyle are on the sides of their toy boxes, and another photo became a poster. To me, the Misfits will always be special. Their horror imagery and their interactive physicality of their great performances always generated a lot of excitement and action in my photographs. I happened to capture some of that simply because they allowed me to do whatever I wanted. They didn't impose any limits. As a result, I got some of my best work. I'm always proud to say I was a Misfits photographer. That was, I really want to thank Frank White and Kenny Caiafa for doing this and putting this book together. And I wish, if there is a way to support them, I don't know if they have a PayPal or something, you should support them because they're awesome. So here we go. Now we're going into we're going to get through the rest of this book real fast because these are just photos now. Mostly, I think. Here are some of the first full band photos. There's Michael Graves with his Michael Graves had a great devil lock. He did. He had a good, here, I'm going to make myself smaller here. He had a great devil lock. Doyle's looking great there. Real classic Doyle. This, of course, this photo here was used on the American Psycho, the back of the American Psycho album. And Jerry always knows how to mug for a camera. These are great shots. Graves's devil lock looks really great. They really have the devil locks down at the time. Although Chud looks so out of place with his his hair like that. That's because Chud, and maybe Graves to a lesser extent, because Graves wasn't really like this. This is really, I mean, Jerry and Doyle sort of live this stuff, and these guys just they come in and they came in to play a part, and they played the part well. They did their thing. Look at Chud with those glasses, because I think Chud wears glasses, and he's wearing these sunglasses on top because he's kind of blind without his glasses on, as I recall. I could be wrong. So this is inside that barn. This is that set that they built. Great looking set. This is a great photo. This is a great photo of the band. Let's see. Let's see here. Okay, so here is At Home with Jerry Only, September 1996. Look at all that stuff. This Island Earth right there. Summer tour. I love Jerry's boots at this time, man. However he made those boots. Here's Jerry with his dog reading Thrasher. Surrounded by stuff. Look, there's the Monster Movie Club right behind there. That from the old, back in the day. There's a little Beavis and Butthead sticker. That was the Monster Movie Club that they were a part of. Feel like you could have a really, really good conversation with Jerry just talking about horror movies. Hold on. I'm going back over. Hey, bro. Right. I sound more like Edward G. Robinson. Bro. I'm rusty, man. I gotta hear Loki to recharge my batteries. Love the impressions. Hilarious. Thank you, Walter White from New Zealand. I'm talking to a woman who looks like Elvira. That's nice. You guys have had this. Okay, Neon Knees and Walter White have both discussed how they're both from New Zealand in our comments before. You guys need to meet up and have. I hope you guys live near each other. You guys got to meet up for a coffee and hang out. I'm putting you two together. Go hang out. Go to a show together or something. New Zealand's a pretty small place, right? I'm sure you guys must be close. I have no clue. Oh, yeah, good point. Crud looks like Corey Feldman in those pictures above. I agree, man. Crazy eyes like from Mr. Deeds. Maybe. In any case, I really, really like Jerry's look here. I love seeing all the stuff in his house. It's so cool. What's this little thing right here? There's a Cyclops. I wonder if those are Misfits lyrics down there that for the box set. Okay, here, this is the photo I have on the thumbnail. I thought this is such a great photo. Here's him with his two monster masks and him with his bases, the resin Cyclops. It's such a cool headstock, the resin Cyclops. Really, really cool. I like it. I like it a lot. There's a motorcycle, and there's the Misfits drummers and stuff, drum stuff. Oh, yeah. You do know not. Okay. I just want to apologize because I had no idea how big New Zealand is. Apparently, New Zealand would stretch from Maine to Miami. That is pretty friggin' long. I feel like a fool. I appreciate the information. And Nigel, who does the Lodi theme for the podcast, I'm glad that you know him from Horror Story, and he's in a ton of bands. He's been on this show, in fact, through recording. Hamilton. Oh, please tell me you guys live near each other. That would be. And Wellington. That's seven. Oh man, it's a 7-hour drive. That's a bummer. How cool would that be if you guys lived an hour away from each other? It'd be so funny. Corey Feldman is still with us, correct? Of course he is. Of course he is. Yes, Robbie, as Robbie says, he did just release the Comeback Kid. You absolutely need to look him up. Yeah, I agree. These are really great pictures of Uncle Jerry. I love seeing him on this motorcycle. This is cool. Jerry's the type of guy you could probably take pictures. He'd take pictures 3 hours. He would just pose in front of a camera. Just because he likes doing it. He loves this stuff, dude. And I love that he loves this stuff. So here they are on the American Psycho Tour, the Irving Plaza in New York City. Great venue. You know, the one thing about Chud that Chud has always suffered from with this kit, he built this cartoonishly large kit. You never see Chud in any pictures. You never see him in any videos. You never see him in any pictures. You only can see the drum set. This crazy drum set, which I'm sure he thought was great at the time, but historically now you never see Chud. It's hard to see Chud in live sort of situations. It is a cool drum kit. Look how big that the bass drum is right here, and this drum, those are overextended. Custom made spikes. It's nuts. You're a fan of Corey Feldman? That's great. Millennium. He had a song called about the millennium or something. Millennium. Yes, Corey Feldman's Michael Jackson phase never ended. He has his voice is very influenced by Michael Jackson in like the best way ever. I'm like actually really impressed. Jim is here. Jim, supporter of the channel. Jim is here. What's up, Jim? He says Jerry on the motorcycle looks like Wes from Road Warrior. Speaking of Wes from Road Warrior, I am going to be conducting Q&As with Wes from Road Warrior for it's a Mad Max movie, drive-in movie theater-a-thon at the Mahoney Drive-In, where Joe Bob Briggs does his show from Monster Vision. Well, they're showing all 4 Mad Max films drive-in style, and I'm going to be conducting Q&As with Vernon Wells, aka Wes from Road Warrior. So you must come and check that out if you are available to do so. At its widest, it's a 5-hour drive. I had no idea. I feel so stupid. I just thought New Zealand was such a small island, but I mean, stretching from Miami to Florida, from Maine to Miami is crazy. It's really crazy. Thank you, Crazy White Boy. He says, happy 2 year. Thank you so much. Xander's in the house. He says, Corey's singing. I just can't keep thinking of Donnie from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. That's right. He did the voice for Donatello from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Pretty great. I can't wait either, man. I can't wait either. I'm excited to meet him and talk to him. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm going to try. If someone's not recording it, I'll make sure I record it for the channel. Definitely going to have that for the channel. Let's keep getting through this, guys, because it's getting late. We're okay. We're not almost through. We're about a quarter through, but again, pictures. So here's some live pictures of them playing live and whatnot. Here's Graves. Graves got these look, that's a tattoo of like the stitches. He used to do it as makeup, and then he got permanent tattoos of the stitches and whatnot. Here's some cool shots of Doyle. It's been a very long time since I've listened to the Misfits in the 90s, like just anything. I really need to go back and listen to them. I just want to hear Doyle by himself without another guitar player playing Misfit songs, hear what it sounds like. I feel like I have not. A rare photo of Dr. Chud from behind the kit, and Doyle and Michael Graves. And from my understanding, Doyle was very skeptical of Graves, and then eventually they grew to become very close. They grew to be friendly, but it wasn't always that way. It didn't always start that way. There's far more people who could speak to that than me. So here's the Dig Up Her Bones night shoot at the barn in Warwick, New York. That's July 1997, and this is when Graves is doing the Baron Benjamin Simonti, whatever that thing is. The voodoo, the sort of doing the voodoo thing he's got the top hat and the skeleton makeup. which it's a very cool look. It's a cool look. It's based on, I mean, listen, Glenn was doing the skeleton makeup all the way back in 1979, but if you're going to have like a guy, replace him, you might as well have someone do some sort of makeup vibe that will look cool. And I will say it's a cool looking makeup thing. Look how young Doyle is here. I mean, Doyle's in his early 30s at this time. It's weird to think he was there for the punk, the punk stuff back in the day. And now, he's barely, I mean, he's not even in his 40s yet. And he's like already reforming the Misfits. And just interesting to me. This is a cool photograph. Really, really like the colors. Like this photograph a lot. Yeah, Baron Samedi. They did a whole thing about him in American Horror Story as well. Can't stop hiccuping. I can't stop hiccuping. American Nightmare is actually pretty good. Listen to Doomsday and the Carol Ann tune. You mean American Psycho is actually pretty. Yeah, dude. We mentioned that. I mentioned that earlier. No matter what, I'm not gonna, can't knock that album. I do like that album. There's nothing against the album, despite everything. I think I recall a video, not sure how I describe it, Uncomfortable. Hate the Living, Love the Dead. That's a Chud song, and it's a great Chud song. I like that song a lot. A lot. I would sing to it right now if it was playing. Hate the living, love the dead. Smashing embryos, cut off heads. Papa Legba in American Horror Story Coven. Yes. 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 Thank you. Thank you for the correction. So this is the Scooby-Doo that everybody's talking about, that sort of thing. Oh, look, here's Kenny and Dr. Chud. I've never seen that photograph. I've never seen either one of these photographs before. Wow. Look at these. These are really cool. Here, I'm going to make myself smaller so the photographs are bigger. Just 1 second. Cool. I like these a lot. Graves looks great here. And you know what kills me? If these guys had just, they still would have gotten crap for looking like the Misfits, but if they had just called themselves another name, it would just be the coolest band in the world. I mean, it'd be so much cooler than it is. It hurts them. And yet, at the same time, we can't deny what they did for the Misfits brand, or whatever you want to call it, keeping the Misfits flame alive, whether it was creating, diluting the brand or creating brand confusion, if you will. It was, I have to give more credit to Jerry than perhaps people want to give him credit for in that way. It's true. It really is true. You can't deny it. It cannot be denied. These are great photos of these guys. Look at them with the cobwebs and the chains. Love it. Love it. Great stuff. I just hate calling it the Misfits. I don't like that. Great shot of Graves here. Look at that. Wow. Great. Dude. Okay. I mean, that's a great shot of Chud. That's a great shot of Graves. And those are great shots of Jerry and Doyle. Fantastic. Frank White is a great, great photographer, man. I really like his stuff. That is a fantastic photo. Never seen that photo before. And you take a look, you can really see how Jerry does his hair. He grows it out in the back here, combs it up to the front, uses lots and lots of hairspray. It really does have, there really is such a greaser aspect to the Devilock, Totally a unique look. It cannot be denied. Another great shot. Okay, that not such a great shot of Chud, but this is a great shot of Graves. It's a shame that Graves doesn't have Frank. It's a shame that why isn't Graves license any of these photos from Frank White? Maybe Jerry doesn't allow it or something. These are great, man. I would put all these photos on t-shirts, man. I mean, it's crazy not to have to. Crazy that he doesn't do that. What other songs did Chud write? I don't remember. I think he wrote The Hunger. Traded in my Bible for a little black cat. No, is that from Hell They Came? That's Speak of the Devil. He wrote Speak of the Devil. He wrote The Hunger, and he wrote Hate the Living, Love the Dead. I think, don't quote me on that. All great songs. I love Speak of the Devil. I love The Hunger. And I love Hate the Living, Love the Dead. If I had 3 songs from the 95 Fits, it would be Saturday Night, Bruiser, and Descending Angel. Misfits Graves era was pretty cool, just weird without Danzig, but cool. But like, that's the problem, is that you call it Misfits Graves era. It's just not. I mean, the Misfits, you need Glenn Danzig for it to be the Misfits, man. Like, that's the bottom line. It's the bottom line. No matter how fun we think this is, it's all Scooby-Doo fun, but it's not. I mean, they just should have changed the name, man. Suppose they had changed the name, would they still have kept the Devilox, though? I'm sure they would, and if they changed the name and kept the Devilox, totally would have been fine. Totally would have worked. Totally would have made sense. You're just not using the same name. That's the bottom line. And here's the thing, though. Ultimately, why do they use the same name? Why do they have to use the same name? Because of the guarantees, man. Because of what the Misfits is worth something. The branding of the Misfits in the 90s is worth something, because it's been through the mill with Metallica. Metallica's wearing Misfits on their shirts. When they call themselves the Misfits, they are tying themselves into Metallica. You know what I'm saying? So of course you have to use the name, or that you would want to use the name. Doesn't mean that it's right. And from a fan perspective, it was a terrible idea. It was an idea that many, many fans have rejected. Some fans have embraced it, and many fans have rejected it. They totally, Rue, you're so right. They totally could have called themselves the Devilox, and it would have been fine. It would have been fine, dude. It just totally would have worked. We're the Devilox. He could have called himself Jerry Devilock, Doyle Devilock, Mikey Devilock, and Dr. Devilock. I mean, everybody would have eaten that up. That nobody would have had a problem with the name the Devilox. It is. Even though we don't talk about this stuff a lot on the channel, I've never, even when I have detested Graves or Chud, I have never, ever spoken badly about the music. I always thought the music was good. It's good music. I enjoy it. I'm thankful that they wrote those songs. I sing along to those songs. I've got no problem with them. My problem is the confusing that with Misfits. That's not the Misfits. The Misfits existed from 77 to 83. Bottom line. And I've always felt that way. Even when I was associating with these people at some point, you know, whether it was doing music videos or whatever I was doing, politely in the back of my mind, I was like, no, that's not the Misfits. It's just not. It's not, dude. It's not. I feel in cheating a hot girl who's perfect. Listen to, I don't know what you mean, Dudley, when you say that. Oh, when you listen to Michael Graves' Misfits. I gotcha. I get it. Oh, that is a weird photo of Dr. Chud with his weird drumsticks. Okay, that's when they were shooting the video, I guess. The Dig Up Her Bones video. Here's some live. Again, love this getup. The straight jacket, the top hat with the Devilock coming down, and the skull makeup. Great look. And he just like sort of walked away from it after a while. You know what? Honestly, I think it's lame. I think it's lame to say that. I think it would be lame to deny one's love for those albums if you enjoyed the music, just because you feel the way that you feel about the people. Don't go down that route. You know, the other day we had a situation. I'm just going to say this now, and I should have said it then. We were looking at the top punk punk guitarists, 20 best punk guitarists. And Dr. No was on the list from the Bad Brains, and Johnny Ramone was on the list. And we weren't talking about them as people. We were talking about them as guitarists. And it was in the comments, it was being, addressed that they were, as people, they had done really crappy, irrehensible, shitty things, and that were undeniable. And yet what I found challenging in the situation was, do we as a society, do we always have to bring up something? If somebody does something wrong, bad, unforgivable, terrible, does it take away from their achievements? Like, and what I mean by that is, like, a great example, I saw this on Twitter today about about an author who did something that was unforgivable in the 30s or 40s. Should they be admonished for it? But should their books be taken off off the shelves? And the answer is no. Why would you take a book off a shelf? What did that book, just because that book came from a shitty human being, doesn't mean it doesn't cancel the art. And that's where people get confused with this idea of cancel culture. It's one thing to hold someone accountable for what they've done, but it doesn't negate their accomplishments. It doesn't. It doesn't, man. Me personally, it doesn't. I can't deny that I love something from someone, even if they've done something really shitty or stupid or unforgivable or irreversible in that kind of way, And so the idea of talking about, like, being able to talk about American Psycho and Famous Monsters, even though I disagree with and do not endorse, whatever you want to call it, champion, hold up the two out of the four people who made that music, being Graves and Chud. It doesn't mean that I don't love their art and appreciate their art for what it is, and I'm grateful to them for making that art in that kind of way. And it's the same thing with Johnny Ramone, who was an anti-Semitic, racist piece of shit. At the same time, he's Johnny fucking Ramone, and he played guitar on some of my favorite songs and was the glue and the heart and soul that carried the Ramones through, most times that would cause the band to disassemble, to disintegrate. Do I appreciate Johnny for that? Absolutely. Do I respect him as a guitarist? Absolutely. Do I respect him as a human being? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And the same could be said for maybe the things that Dr. No has said or done from the Bad Brains. Same exact thing. Point being, with all of this, people get things very confused. Number one, you can absolutely be held accountable for the things that you say and do. Private companies have the right to not work with you if you do some stupid shit. That's just common sense. That's not canceling anybody, and that's not canceling anybody's First Amendment. However, if somebody does something irrehensible like that, whatever it might be, that does not give license. We can't just suddenly erase that person's work output from existence. You can't do it, dude. I don't care. I know that Michael Jackson has done some terrible things, and I know that he was whatever. I don't want to get into Michael Jackson, but I love Michael Jackson's music. I love his dancing. I appreciate his music videos. I mean, I would be, what is it, just suddenly go away? And it's different and we've talked about this before. It's so different for every single thing. There are some things where, like, I'll give you an example. I'm a big fan of No Bunny, who I talk about from time to time, and No Bunny died a terrible death, metaphorical death. The Justin is still alive and well, as far as I know. Justin did some unforgivable things, and devastating, unforgivable, terrible, irreprehensible things he deserves to be locked up in jail for, if all true, which he has somewhat admitted to. It's given me weird feelings. Like, I feel like I can't enjoy his music the way I used to for whatever reason. I don't know why. I still listen to it sometimes for nostalgia reasons, but, like, I can't, it's hard for me to separate. There are other times where it's easier. You know, it's really hard to separate a stand-up comic from their art because they're the ones that are making the jokes. They're delivering their jokes. It's really, really easy for me to separate a director from his art because the director is not, you don't see the director's face. You know what I mean? It's a lot harder to separate maybe an actor from the work because you see the actor on the screen of the thing you're enjoying. But like when it comes to directors, it's easier. It's everything. It's so subjective, man. It's so nuanced. And yet at the same time, again, counterpoint here, at the same freaking time, you know, you can't erase what someone has done accomplishment wise if they're a bad person. I don't think that's fair to art and commerce and culture, you know, in that kind of way. That's just me. At the same time, you know, considering everything that's come out about Bill Cosby, if you're a fan of the Cosby Show, and I'm sure there's a bunch of people that are, it probably is a lot harder to watch. It might be hard to watch the Cosby Show with Bill Cosby there on the screen playing the squeaky clean dad when in reality he was doing what he was doing. You know what I'm saying? So it's like it's very subjective. It's very all over the place. I'm sorry for this tangent. I just was thinking about that just now. And I was thinking the other day, like when we were doing that thing with the punk rock, you know, talking about Johnny Ramone and Dr. No and, you know, trying to celebrate their accomplishments as guitarists and not the shitty things they did as people. And what I should have said is in that stream is like, what does one have to do with the other in this moment? If you can't enjoy it personally, I respect that. And I understand that if you got to peace out. Like you don't want to watch the stream, fine. But I don't see what we're talking about guitar. We're talking about music. We're not talking about what their actions were as people. Okay. It's not relevant to the conversation. You know, if every time we talk about their guitar work, we have to bring up that they're a shitty person. Do we have to do that? I don't know. I don't know. And you know, I really don't want to sit here and sound like I have like the concrete definitive answer. I'm working through this stuff myself. Like, how does this work? How am I supposed to feel? How am I supposed to carry myself? I don't know. I generally go by my gut. I go by what's true to me. And in this case with the Misfits, what's true to me is I love those fucking albums, even though they're, you know, were made by some people who are kind of shitty people. You know, Chud and Graves in particular. I love those albums. I love that music, and I'll never apologize for liking it or listening to it. I will apologize for listening to it as a Misfits music per se, you know, because like I have, that's something that's hard for me to reconcile. I can't just go, no, that's the Misfits Mach 2 and that's it. I can't. I have problems with that. But that other stuff, yeah, that's how okay. I'm just going to move on now. Sorry, tangent over. I just had to say all that. I don't know why it just came to me. So here's them playing again. This looks like it's at that barn as well. I think this was for some promo. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe it's for the video as well. Here's Joey Ramone. There's Daniel Ray. Okay, what is this for? This is Daniel Ray, Joey Ramone. Now Jerry would play on Joey Ramone's solo album along with Daniel Ray, who not only produced the Ramones, but he also produced the Misfits and co-wrote Misfits songs. Let me see here. But what is this for? Let's see. Okay, so this was Joey Ramone joins the Misfits at the Roseland Ballroom, the throne of Dr. Chud. You know what's interesting is before Joey Ramone broke his hip, he was supposed to sing for the newly formed, or for the Misfits Mach 3. It would have been Marky Ramone, Joey Ramone, Doyle, and Jerry Only. Half Misfits, half Ramones. Misfits, I guess you would call it. That's cool, though. I love that Joey was a friend to the Misfits in the 90s. Apparently, Dee Dee Ramone was a big into the Misfits in the 90s or the early aughts as well. Here we go. Here's them at the House of Blues in Florida, 1998. Look at those guys. Look at that. And look, you can see Doyle's not wearing those big platform shoes yet. So he's not as tall as he used to be. Yeah. It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. Pretty chill. Pretty chill. Is there video of this, or am I thinking of Dee Dee playing with them? There is video of Dee Dee playing with them, and there is video of Joey Ramone playing with them, I think, as well. I do think there's that giant TV they were talking about, Kenny. That's great, man. What a cool stage show. I never got to see the 95 Misfits, and I wish I had. They were just not on my radar yet. They would be on my radar just as they were imploding. It's a real shame. Here we go. And here's the Mike Hideous era of the band. We heard all about that. So again, if you have not already, go listen to the Mike Hideous episode where he details his entirety of being with the Misfits from start to finish. 3 hours long it is. It was a great episode. Apart from some comments that I did not appreciate Mike making on the air. It was so weird. You know, it's funny. Why do I wear the sunglasses? I wear the sunglasses so I can hide my emotions sometimes. And in that moment, I was like, man, maybe I should end this show right now. I can't believe this dude's just saying this stuff. I'm really glad I didn't, though. Mike was a great guest overall. Overall, he was a great guest and did a great job on the show, and I appreciate him for taking the time to do it. So here's a little blurb about Mike Hideous, who took his ponytail and tied it in the front here. He was vastly, he'll tell you this himself. I'm not speaking out of turn when I say this. He was not prepared. He did those tours on a very, very short notice, and he was not prepared. His voice was not prepared for the daily onslaught of singing that he would have to do. And he really strained his voice when going on tour. He says, I photographed the Misfits with another New Jersey singer, Mike Hideous from the Empire Hideous, during his short term fronting the band. Dynamo was the first time I saw them on a huge festival stage, playing to thousands of music fans. I mean, talk about, if you're going to jump in and take Michael Graves' spot, that's the perfect. Hideous got to do it the best times for big audiences. Hideous looked the part and sang his ass off, but he only lasted through that summer for one tour each in Europe and South America. He really got a taste. Michael Graves soon returned on August 29th, 1998, kicking off the Evilive 2 tour at the Convention Hall in Asbury Park, New Jersey. And, Doyle and Chud they never wanted Hideous in the band, from my understanding. And they were not very supportive of him, which is a shame. And maybe it's a shame that they were not more supportive. He was ultimately, I feel like Hideous was used as he was ultimately weaponized against Michael Graves, and it was not fair to Mike Hideous at all. Not fair at all. I've never read his book. I really should. The biography, the diaries. He did tell us one story about Dr. Chud, and a videotape of material that I'm not going to talk about on the air here now, but let's just say I was shocked when I heard the story. I guess that's in his book. Like I said, I've not read his book yet, so I don't know. So here they are playing live, some great live shots. Oh, look, Doyle has a little Star Trek emblem on his guitar strap right there. And Giants, he has a giant sticker on his guitar. That's cool. Here we go. Who's this? Ooh, she is foxy. Why is this? Oh, is this that character Helena or something? Pretty girl. I guess she was another character. Yeah, that's Helen Blazes. I don't know anything about her really. This is Halloween 1996. I thought she was a cartoon. That's what I thought. I didn't realize that there was a model. I knew about the cartoon, not the model. Huh. And that was she was the fan club mascot, Helen Blazes. Became a Halloween postcard for the fan club. It's amazing that there was never a cartoon show around the Misfits, like this version of the Misfits. You would imagine. And here they are on the Uncle Floyd show. This is in Oakland, New Jersey. Now the Misfits had the original Misfits had been on the Uncle Floyd show back Doyle's the night of Doyle's first show at 16 years old. He was on the Uncle Floyd show, and Uncle Floyd is very, very, very protective of his material. He had the Ramones on. He had all these different bands, and you can't see his archive. I mean, he could be making so much money. Talk about a Patreon. I mean, the dude should have done. And it's kind of like this jokey kiddie show, kind of like Howdy Doody or whatever, but like public access punk tilt to it. For those who are not, every once in a while, somebody uploads something from Uncle Floyd, and Uncle Floyd has it taken down. He's still around, and he's not very easily accessible. Oh, it started in 1974. I did not realize that. So during 1998, I became the set photographer for a long-running local New Jersey TV program called The Uncle Floyd Show. Since 1974, Uncle Floyd Vivino hosted this low-budget adult comedy show, but it was it was supposed to be a kiddie show, but it was aimed at adults, featuring live music from local and national acts, including the Ramones, Tiny Tim, John Bon Jovi, Squeeze, David Johansen, the Smithereens, Blue Oyster Cult, Cyndi Lauper, Peter Tork of the Monkees. Howard Stern made an appearance during his earlier days of the show. I did not know that. Performing with the puppets he had as a kid growing up on Long Island, Oogie. John Lennon was a big fan of Uncle Floyd. I did not know that. He turned on David Bowie, and David Bowie and the Bowie song Slip Away mentions Floyd and Floyd's puppets, Oogie and Bones Boy. In 1998, I was able to get the Misfits booked on the show, bringing together two New Jersey institutions. Does Frank White not realize that they had been on the Uncle Floyd show back in the day? I guess not. I did not know Howard Stern or the David Bowie thing or the John Lennon thing. That is crazy. So you have to imagine that John Lennon's watching the Ramones on Uncle Floyd. That's nuts. Look at them. Look at those photos, man. Talk about an archive that oh my God, look at that. I wonder if that's an original Night of Living Dead shirt. On black, though? I thought they were only on white. Yeah, look, Doyle doesn't have Doyle is shorter. He does not have his platform shoes at all. Let's see what we got here. Is that CBGB's? It looks like. Yep, CBGB's. And that was in 98. God, CBGB's, incredible place. And I guess maybe Jerry hadn't been there since, 21 years earlier. Unless maybe they played CBGB's earlier than that. I don't know. This I do not know. Okay, so here is Jerry Only. Remember what we were talking about, that when he was photographing him at home? Look at all the famous Monsters of Film and magazines Jerry Only has, and his acoustic. He's got his acoustic guitars and his toy soldiers. He's wearing his workout belt in reverse with the studs. Such a signature Jerry Only thing. At home with Jerry Only, December 1999. That's really cool. That's great. That's Jerry's dad. That's Jerry Only Sr., man. Yes, there he is. Look at him. So rare to see a photo of Jerry Sr. I seldom see photos of him. Now, he went to high school. He was in the same year as Benson. For anybody who knows Cardi Sugar Bowl, the guy Benson, he went to high school with Jerry Sr. and they were in the same grade. Jerry Sr. played football. Interesting guy. And there he is, the son. So cool. Here are the plaques that they plan to make. These never really came out or never really did anything. They were painted. I believe they were they might have been sculpted by Ken Caiafa, but they were painted up, or the demos were painted up by Tank, who mentioned that, who said that as much. Huh. It was 1999. So cool. And here's Jerry getting into his wrestling, his WWE. Punk and wrestling, June 2000. One day, Jerry called me and announced that the band was getting into wrestling. So was I. Shooting let me take that again. Punk and wrestling, June 2000. One day, Jerry called me up and announced that the band was getting into wrestling. So was I. Shooting WWF, ECW, XPW, and WCW wrestling matches since the early 80s. Soon enough, Jerry outfitted his house with an arena-sized wrestling mat with the Crimson Ghost logo in the middle. I had never heard of that before. They were definitely in wrestling mode at that point. You'd have to be to own a wrestling ring in your own house. Shortly after, I was asked to do a photo shoot at the Warwick barn for WCW Wrestling Magazine with the Misfits and a Mexican wrestler named Vampiro. Above, this photo is from the same year, captures Jerry performing an impressive wrestling style backwards dive into the crowd from the balcony of the Truncadero in Philadelphia on November 26, 2000, a day after my 14th birthday. The crowd caught him too, spikes and all. Wow. So cool. Yeah. Nice. That's cool. Here we go. Okay, so this is at the Full Force Festival on June 27th, 1999. Look at the crowds. There's one, they played Japan. There's like some video on YouTube. They played Japan one year. I forget where. And they really, man, they had some energy to them. They really crushed it. Look at Doyle's makeup there. That is his very, very puffy devil lock. Their devil locks were a little awkward in the 90s. They got better. They got better with it. I'd say in the aughts and definitely in the 2010s. But in the 90s, they were a little awkward. Okay, there's Tank right there, who we had on the show, and he will be back. And here's there's Tank and Kenny, two lifelong friends. Tank and Kenny, they had a pool business together. I think now Kenny is the main operator. Tank is no longer involved with that business. He has his own business now. But they had a pool cleaning business for many, 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 many years. Very, very good friends. It was through Tank that I interviewed Ken. So I'm eternally grateful to Tank. I'm eternally grateful to Tank for a lot of things. He's always been very good to me. I appreciate him. I appreciate him coming on the show the other week, and he'll be back. He will be back. It's going to be great. I have a lot more questions to ask him because of this book, frankly. We'll get to the comments, by the way. We're just trying to get to the end of this so we can wrap things up. This is February 2000. Over the years, the Misfits learned to indulge their theatrical side. Dr. Chud would appear in a cage beneath his drums as a pumpkin monster with blood covering his torso. At some shows, the band's friend, Tank, would appear as Frankenstein. He and Ken, as the Crimson Ghost, would fight on stage in a scene straight out from an old cover of Famous Monsters of Film. Man, that's awesome. Although I think it's, no offense, Frank, but why are you calling Tank the friend? I mean, Tank eventually became the tour manager, and he had been there. He had been there working security, like all sorts of jobs since the beginning, since 94, 95. 95? I mean, like that. I feel like that's crazy. That's a little crazy. Still really cool, though. Great shots. And look at Jerry there. My God. Incredible shape for his age. I don't know how old he is. That's April 2001. So Doyle is now, or Doyle is soon to be out of the band. He's not out of the band quite yet. And there's another, there he is, February 2002. Now he's straight up out of the band. Or he's not in the band anymore. There's Uncle Dezo. And Robo. Look at Robo with his oversized drum set. Yeah, this was when these were the lean years, I guess you would call them, right? These were the lean years. We don't cover these years enough. We should. We should. Here we go. Look at this photo. There's the Misfits with the Ramones. You got all four guys from the Misfits and Joey and Marky Ramone. And again, Chud and Michael will leave. And the plan was to have, could you imagine Joey and Marky with Doyle and Jerry? That would be something else. And there's Michael Berryman, it looks like. And who's on stage here? Who's that playing guitar and singing? I don't know. It's just with a bunch of fans. There's Scott Ian from Anthrax. There's Johnny Kelly, who would eventually drum for Danzig, typo negative. There's Peter Steele. And that is Dez. There's an early picture with Dez. There's what's his face from the Insane Clown Posse and Guar. You got Odorous from Guar. Don't know who they are. These look like they're fans. Huh. Just a random potpourri. Potpourri. Here we go. There's Frank White and Ken Caiafa. Ken looks great there. They both look great. I just remember Ken, when I met Ken, he was just, he was wearing a baseball cap and sweatpants. Now he looks like, real rock and roll, at least more like that, more like it. Here you go. 7 Misfits from Hell. This is a very, very well-known photograph. This was at the Misfits box set release party at Generation Records. And what's amazing is I have either interviewed or worked with in some capacity everybody here except for Jerry Only. I've had Michael Graves on Rock and Roll Cooking. Doyle's been on Rock and Roll Cooking. Chud's been on Rock and Roll Cooking. I've interviewed Bobby, Frank, and Jim. The only person to appear on the channel thus far is Jim, but Frank will be joining us soon enough. And I've never worked with Jerry in any capacity on anything. Just met him once. Look at that. The Misfits Among Us. Fiends featured in Teenagers from Mars, and shows everybody who was in there, all the lineups and whatnot. Here's who Frank wishes to. This was cool that they did this little photo shoot thing. Frank White wishes to thank my loving wife, Michelle, my biggest heartfelt appreciation of her love and support for the last 17 years, my loving parents, Millie and Frank Sr., who brought me into this world, and my sisters, Irene and Betty, for coming along for the wild ride, my partner in this book, Ken Caiafa, for resurfacing at the right time to create the best book on your brother's band, the Misfits, longtime friend Kevin Clement, who helped me meet the Misfits at his April 1995 Chiller Theater Expo, and especially Ian Christie, publisher of Bazillion Books, who believed in our idea and was willing to help us create this amazing book. Huge thanks to diehard fans of the Misfits around the world for all your spirit and love for these punk rockers from New Jersey. Most importantly, I'd like to express my gratitude to all Misfits band members from 1995 to 2006 for letting me into your lives so my photography could help bring you back from the dead. Ken says, oh, this is sweet. He thanks George Germain, #1. Oh my God, that is so sweet. He says, Ken Caiafa would like to thank George Germain for being, so George, there was, I don't know if this ever went down, but they were all going to get tattoos of George Germain's face and with something like the Sons of Germain on them. Really sweet. For those of you who don't know who George Germain is, he's many things in the Misfits story. Not going to get into it now. But at the very top, George Germain for being a parent at a time in my life when I needed a parent the most. So nice. And teaching me how to work my camera. My brothers for having the balls to go out after what they wanted and never giving up regardless of the criticism and the obstacles. And I think what he means by that, he's talking not just about the lawsuits, but also just all the smack that people gave them for coming back as the Misfits. That goes for Glenn as well. So he thanks Glenn. Frank Coma, Mr. Jim, Googie, Joey, Bobby, Robo, Dr. Chud, Mike Graves, Dez, Marky Ramone, and Mike Hideous. You guys were good friends to me, and I love when I run into you. The many friends who helped this band throughout the years, you are too many to make the list, but you know who you are. Also, Mike Alago, Mike Gitter, John Caffiero, Glenn Hetrick, and the late George Romero and Basil Gogos. My fabulous road crew, Tank, Landerman, Soto, McLaren, Vitello, Sullivan, Tut, Benetti, Mesa, Kunkel, and Parker. Your hard work was needed and appreciated. Frank White for all the great photos and making this book a reality. Lori Grotsky, your support and understanding and forgiveness, and big heart is unparalleled. My sons, Junior and Mike, your unending teasing of me makes life worth living. That's really sweet. That's really nice. Couldn't say I really met him. I guess I briefly met his son, Junior, at Living the American Nightmare, the Mike Hideous documentary, the premiere, at Montclair, New Jersey, 2011. They handed out DVDs of Living the American Nightmare. I guess that's worth a lot of money. So yeah, I guess that's the end of is that the end of the book? That is the end of, oh no, here's a little bit more. Another page. Them looking into the mirror. That's cool. And bookending it with, once again, oh, here's the last shot. Great shot of the band. Their first West Coast tour back in the day. Okay. That was a nice solid 2.5 hours, work through. I thought we were never going to get through. I thought I was like, oh my God, this show is going to be like 4 hours long, but we did it. We did it. I'm going to go through the comments real quick and we're going to wrap it up. I'm not going to hit every comment, just highlight comments that pop out to me. Listen, if it is your first time with us, please make sure you subscribe to the channel. Please make sure to like, share, leave a comment. Let some of your ads, if you get an ad pop up on my channel, click on it, let it play through. Those little pennies go in my pocket. It's very helpful to me. Oh, this was about what I was talking about, cancel culture. Terrible people can make great music. That is most certainly true. Great people can be terrible. Oftentimes they are. They say, don't meet your heroes. Thank you. Unless you are Graves or a conservative musician, then it's okay to cancel them. I'm not going to go there. We already talked about it. I don't have to clarify the notion of cancel. Graves is a tool, but they made a few great songs. They sure did. I'm not canceling anyone for anything. Have to be anti-censorship. You need to separate art from the person. Subjective, but we already talked about it. I'm not talking about it again. I will never prefer Graves over Glenn, but yeah, Cuts from the Crypt is a masterpiece. Okay. Ironic how anarchists on Reddit are the most canceling group of people. Oh, I'm not going to answer. I don't know what the answer. Oh, I see what the answer to the joke is. I'm not going to highlight that at all. Not going to highlight that. Yeah, I think Polanski is a great example of people who have been able to divorce his actions from his art. You know, their shitty actions shouldn't take away the good parts of my adolescence. I just don't support their. Yeah, that's a great. I think that's a great outlook. It's like Hannibal Buress once said, the guy who literally sort of really pushed open the Bill Cosby narrative, which was already an open secret. It's over, man. We experienced that shit. Can't erase memories. Yeah. Yeah. Can't follow Glenn without getting shit. I listen to music by some shitty people. I like G.G. Allen's early stuff with the Jabbers. I do too. I like that first Jabbers album. Is great. G.G. Allen was an incredibly shitty person who did incredibly shitty things, but that first Jabbers album is fantastic. Always was, is, shall be. Great album. Great album. No denying that. The whole problem would have been solved with a simple name change. It really would have. I'm guessing this is in reference to the Misfits. Yes. Yes. Rue was at that show. I believe was the Roseland, maybe the Ritz. Are you talking about with the Ramones? I'm guessing. I don't know. They just released the Iggy tribute. Okay, they're definitely talking about the Ramones. Because the Iggy tribute had 1969, which had Dr. Chud on drums, and Jerry only did bass. And that later went on the solo album. That is awesome, Rue. I agree. Is there video of this or anything? Right, we already talked about that. Not even boots. The Iggy cover, I Got It Right, was the first time I heard New Misfits. I refused to even check it out until my friend showed me it was kind of okay. And the old Misfits used to cover, Danzig and the guys used to cover I Got It Right. But he would say, instead of anytime I want, I got a right to kill, right to move, he'd say, anytime I want, I got a right to kill. I would kill to hear that version of I Got It Right. Chris says, saw the New Misfits at the Roseland and the Ramones came out and did some songs in the 90s. That's awesome. I remember in like 04, 05, leaving a Danzig show in Chicago, people handing out Chud flyers. They all went to the ground. Oh, there was a Dr. Chud street team and they were handing out Chud flyers and nobody wanted them. That's funny. That is funny. Hideous had that 87 Doyle fan club 3-foot long devil lock. Yes, he did. He had a very long devil lock. He did. Uncle Floyd was the first time Rue Morgue hurt the Ramones was because of Uncle Floyd. How about that? Story from Nigel is so great. Right. Yeah. That Nigel's story of hanging out with Danzig's pretty cool. You know, I had fun seeing the Jerry Dez Misfits. It was just fun to sing along to the songs. It was terrible. I mean, it was really bad, but whatever. I had a good time. You have a good time with Jerry. Jerry Only is still fun. He's still fun. He would listen, if he just called himself Jerry Only and gone out solo with Dez and Robo or whoever, they'd still be playing those same songs. It would just be called Jerry Only. He calls himself the Misfits. It sucks, but whatever. He's still doing it. And we've talked about why he does that. He does that because he sings out of necessity. I don't think it's an ego thing at all. I think it's like it made his life easier. It was one less guy to worry about. I feel like it was he tried so hard to find a replacement for Graves and he couldn't do it. He just said, I'll just do it. They first came to New Zealand in 2006. Nigel's band opened for them in Wellington. I met Jerry afterwards. Right. I believe Nigel mentioned that they kind of like they opened a bunch of times for Jerry's Misfits when they came to New Zealand. Or maybe it was like a small tour or something. Maybe. Hail Odorous for sure. I got to interview Odorous. I've talked about that way too many times on the channel. I'm not going to mention it now. I love these long, deep dives into the weird eras of the Misfits, says Rick S. Me too, man. Super fun. Super fun. I wish I knew more about other bands because I feel like there's so many that we could do. They should have been called Jerry Only and the Megamites. I love it. For the kids. I love it. I don't know. Dudley says, I don't know these people personally. Okay. I think you're referring to, I'm all talked out, everybody. I'm super, super talked out. This is had a lot of fun, great episode. Thank you all for joining me, and thank you for watching for the last 2 years. Even though I screwed up the anniversary, it's actually in 2 days. We've already celebrated it, and it was a good celebration, and hopefully we're still doing this a year from now, and the channel's bigger. That's what I hope. That's literally all I hope. I'm just going to keep doing this because it makes me happy and I enjoy it. And as long as I enjoy it, it makes me happy. That's great. And if the byproduct is that there is growth, and that's great. And if there's not, then there's not. And I can put as much energy into it as I want to. I think we got another subscriber. Tammy, you just subscribed to the channel. I appreciate that. If you did, I don't know. Or if you, I don't know what that was, that notification. I think that's a Twitter notification, Twitch notification. But thank you, Tammy. And any which way, thank you. Bottom line, do what makes you happy, people. As long as you're not hurting anybody, just do it. If you make music, make music. If you make movies, make movies. If you like to write, if you like to create, do stuff that makes you happy. And I promise you that if you're really good at what you do, or if you just keep at it, that there will be things will manifest in it as a byproduct in ways that you did not intend. You know, whether it's, doing something in a regular sort of way, or slowly but surely building something, that's my feeling on it, at least personally. But thank you, everybody. Thank you, Mom. Thank you, Alan. Thank you, Neon Knees. Thank you, Dudley. Ralphie Repulsive says, has anyone heard Jerry's son's band? I think he could be a good Misfits vocalist after the reunion shows run their course. I have not listened to Jerry Other's band, but I have to tell you, I love that this dude calls himself Jerry Other. I think it's phenomenal. I love that there's another. I love that, first of all, Jerry himself is a Jerry Jr., but I love that there's a Jerry the third. There's a third Jerry, and instead of calling himself Jerry Only Jr., he calls himself Jerry Other, the way that his dad is Jerry Only. You just can't write this stuff. It's great. And I love that he's just like, he was playing guitar for Jerry for a while. And then when Danzig came back and they were doing their thing, he just kind of went off and he released his own record. Put out a record as Jerry Other. He did what I think his father should have done many, many, many years ago. So I think it's great. And I hope he puts out an album. I'll check it out. And maybe I'd go see him if he came to town and whatnot, but I've not listened to it. I don't really know. I don't know anything about it. I'd love to know more. Thank you, Rue. Thank you so much. Thank you, guys. Thank you. The shows are far few between now, but when they happen, they're good, right? Isn't that what this is all about? Rue says, someday I'll tell you about my Jerry Only story. I cannot wait. Rue, one day that will happen. Tammy says, been watching your channel for a while. Good content. Keep it up. Thank you, Tammy. Really appreciate it. Truly. One last thing, guys. We're supposed to do a Devil Lock contest. Okay. We were supposed to do the second Devil Lock pageant. I've only had 1 or 2 people send in stuff. Come on, send in some. I'm not going to do it if I have just one person. And you know what? Listen, ultimately it comes down to demand. If there's no, last time the first time we did the Devil Lock pageant, we had a whole bunch of submissions. So we had 20, 25 submissions. We were rating a bunch of Devil Locks. I need some more. So go take a look at the criteria. It's on go find the Devil Lock 2 pageant rules, and let's make this thing happen. Let's do it. What, does anyone know why Ratfink wasn't a part of the pre-master Night of Living Dead session tracks on the Coffin box set? I don't. I'm bald. Dude, being bald, one of the rules for the Devil Lock pageant is that you can make a Devil Lock out of anything. I believe in inclusion, man. I like to include everybody. No one should be excluded from a devil lock contest because they're bald. Get creative, Neon Knees. Get creative. You could take a Slim Jim and hang it down the center of your forehead, and that could be a devil lock. You could take some prosciutto, twist it, or bacon, and twist it like this, and deep fry it, and then stick it right down the middle, and you could have yourself a meat lock. It's totally possible. Ralphie says he's bald too, and it never stopped. Exactly. Just make it happen. Make it happen. You can send your submissions to videobusinessmedia@gmail.com. Put in the title, subject, Devlock, but check out the contest rules. Don't just submit. There's rules. I forget what the rules are. I don't remember what the rules are, but there are rules, and the rules must be followed. I wrote them for a good reason. I don't remember why I wrote them, but I wrote them. Guys, I'm exhausted. But it's 2 hours and 49 minutes. I mean, we really should have a 3-hour show, should we not? Should we not? No, let's not do it. I'm not doing it. I'm not playing that game. I used to do that all the time. All right. More stuff is coming. I've got a big, fat interview next Sunday. Fingers crossed. God's willings. It goes really well. One of the biggest guests we've ever had on the channel. I mean, this is big times, this guest. I'm very excited. Hope it all goes well. I shouldn't even talk about it. I never talk about this stuff. I just do it. And then once it's happened, you can talk about it. I'm so excited and nervous. Lots of stuff happening in general, just lots of stuff going on. Steve Zing music video, that's coming sooner than later. What else can I tell you? I don't know. I don't think there's anything else. Just subscribe to the channel, please. Make sure you do that. And shit. Wait. Oh God, why is this frozen on me? You could try to reach out to Jerry's son to an interview since his father is inaccessible. I would love to interview Jerry's son, but you know what the problem is? I don't know if he would want to talk to me because I don't think I've been overly critical of Jerry only. But I don't know. I don't know how he would take it. I don't know if he would be like not interested or consider the things that I've said as criticism. I don't know. I don't know if he would do it. I'd love to have him on. I would love to talk to Jerry Jr. And like I said, I really, truly respect him striking out on his own as Jerry Other. I think it's great. I think we've even encouraged people to buy his stuff on the show. Yes, the new Black 29 is coming in April, and you'll never believe who is in. I think it's still a secret. Maybe the song is a secret, or is the people a secret? I don't remember what Steve said on the show, but there are some guests in this music video that I've been editing that I think you all will really appreciate in Steve's new music video for a Black 29 track. It's going to be really cool. Really, really cool. Steve and I did a music video once before. Check out Sweet Nothing if you haven't seen it. Black 29. That's my music video that I directed for Steve. That's it, guys. That's it. I think that's it for the show. So listen, peace, hair grease, all that jazz. Like, share, subscribe. Do you know about the Patreon? Make sure you check it out.
Hey guys, what's going on? It's Jeff. So I've decided to make a Patreon. What is Patreon? I don't know how to define a Patreon. Let me look it up. Patreon is a membership platform that makes it very easy for creators to get paid for the things that they're already creating. I want to do it full time. I want this to be my full-time job. In my efforts to make that happen, I've set up this platform. Is it going to work? Is it going to be successful? I don't know, but I would rather try and crash and burn than not try at all. The goal is to create enough passive revenue so that I can continue to do this full-time, uninterrupted. Why? Because I love to do this. I love creating content. I love making videos. I love shooting films. I love doing podcasts. In case you couldn't tell, I love to talk and I never shut the fuck up. So right now I've kept the Patreon incredibly simple. There's 2 tiers, and that may change in the future. The Murdergram is a simple way to extend support for all of the hours and hours of free content on the channel for nothing more than $1. 38 cents goes to Patreon. What's $1.38, eh? It's less than a cup of coffee, but it's a great way that you can show support for very little effort. When you divide that $1.38 by the hours and hours and hours of time spent listening to this endless drivel of content, the dollar cost average works out. Next up is the YouTube Casualty for $6.66. The YouTube Casualty is loaded to the gills. Enjoy the archive ad-free, as well as ad-free early access to special docu-style podcast videos, music reaction commentaries, and the like, a month before they drop on YouTube, loaded with ads, I might add. You're also going to get exclusive content and behind-the-scenes content that is not available on YouTube or anywhere else. So you get to peek behind the veil. And believe me, there's a couple of choice pieces. Most of all, more than anything, whether you join the Patreon or not, I just want to thank each and every one of you that comes to the channel, that watches all the shows, that leaves comments, that participates, that subscribes. That's really the most important thing. This is just trying to find a way to earn a living as an artist. And with that, thank you for my TED Talk. Join the Patreon, because we need you!
66 cents.